Actually, as for whether he should kill Xiao Xiao immediately, Lin Shi already had an answer in his heart. He didn't care at all, casually taking care of the people in front of him. Just like in the previous apocalypse, killing Xiao Xiao so easily made Lin Shi feel a bit of regret. It was too easy for him. You have to know, in his past life, Xiao Xiao had deceived him for 8 years during the apocalypse. This guy took all his benefits, betrayed his trust. If Lin Shi hadn't needed to deal with Shinjin Bin last time, how could he have let Xiao Xiao die so easily? Lin Shi had told Lin Tianrui to keep an eye on Xiao Xiao. For someone who posed no threat to him, why not let him suffer enough torture before dying? Xiao Xiao clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white, but after a short while, he let go. This repeated over and over again. In the end, Xiao Xiao still didn't say anything. He turned his head and walked heavily in another direction. Father Xiao and Mother Xiao looked at each other and silently followed their son. Father Xiao couldn't help but look back at Lin Shi, staring intently at his face as if trying to memorize his appearance, before turning back to chase after Xiao Xiao. Among those people, Sun Xiaodong, the guy who didn't die by Lin Shi's hands in the previous apocalypse, actually followed Xiao Xiao. On the contrary, Su Feifei, Su Qin, and Huang Miao remained standing where they were, watching Xiao Xiao walk away without any intention of following him. The fickleness of human nature, the warmth and coldness of the world, it was nothing more than this. I want to get some lunch. Do you guys know where to eat in the base? Lin Shi looked at the remaining people and asked with a faint smile. Lin Shi naturally wanted to win over Su Qin first. It was just a meal, and he hadn't eaten anything anyway. Hearing this, Huang Miao was the first to speak up. I know, Brother Lin. I'll take you there. It's lunchtime right now. The cafeteria was bustling with noise and excitement. The serving windows stretched on endlessly, with no end in sight. The base used contribution points to buy meals. Because the machinery system in this apocalypse was good, the base used facial recognition technology. You just needed to scan your face at the machine to deduct contribution points and check your remaining balance. Lin Shi swept his spiritual power across and saw at least several hundred windows. Brother Lin, this is where we usually eat. This is just one cafeteria on this floor. Every floor has a cafeteria, but we usually eat on this one, Huang Miao explained. Is there anywhere with fewer people? Lin Shi didn't want to wait in line. He remembered Lin Tianrui saying there was a canteen in the base. Su Feifei's eyes lit up, and she said, yes, there is. There's a canteen in the base. We call it the private dining hall. There are very few people there. Brother Lin, you can go there to eat. Huang Miao looked at Su Feifei and patted his head. It was a shame he forgot about the canteen. There were 2 types of dining halls in the base. One was a fast food style, like an industrial cafeteria, communal meals, cheap, and of acceptable quality. It only cost a few contribution points to eat there. But the taste was hard to describe. It basically just filled your stomach. Don't expect much in terms of flavor. There was also a special canteen. As long as you ordered a dish, the chef would prepare it on the spot. I heard they have all kinds of delicacies there. It means the ingredients available before the apocalypse are fully stocked in the canteen. Moreover, all the chefs there are Michelin-starred chefs or famous cooks from before the apocalypse. However, the prices are not cheap at all. Just walking through the door costs 10,000 contribution points. They had never been there. It was said that even the high-ranking officials in the base rarely set foot there because it was too expensive. With that many contribution points, wouldn't it be better to buy gene-enhancing serums? Only those with extremely high contribution points and plenty of wealth frequented the place. For example, the director of the Science Research Institute, the person holding the highest amount of contribution points in the base. Rumor has it he goes there to eat once a week. Going to the canteen costs a lot of contribution points. Brother Lin, you're from the Lin family base. You must have contribution points in this base too, right? Huang Miao asked first, worried that Lin Shi might not have any. If they ate at the main hall and Lin Shi didn't have contribution points, they could still help him out. But if it was the canteen, it would be hard for them to scrape together that many points. Su Feifei also thought of that and covered her mouth, blaming herself for speaking too hastily. This was Lin Shi's first time at the base's official dining hall. He did have contribution points in the base, and probably quite a lot. Just counting the fact that he provided the government with modified firearms after the apocalypse, along with various origin cores from the hidden clans, his contribution points were definitely not a small amount. It was just that there was nothing in the base he wanted to exchange for right now, so he had never spent any. Therefore, he didn't even know how many points he had. I should have a few. Linsher said, not entirely sure. Let's go. You guys lead the way. Su Feifei, Su Qin, and Huang Miao looked at each other and helplessly led the way. If Linsher really had the money to eat at the canteen and even brought them along, they would have material to brag about to other evolvers later. At least Su Feifei knew that among the evolvers here, no one was decisive enough to eat at the canteen. The canteen was located on the 16th basement floor, next to the elevator. Taking the elevator also cost contribution points, but not much. The entire base, from above ground to dozens of floors underground, only had one canteen. Because there were few customers, the canteen wasn't large. It was designed in the style of an ancient Xia country pavilion. Perhaps to evoke memories of ancient architecture from before the apocalypse, the canteen's designer had put a lot of thought into it. While Lin Shi and the others were still in the elevator, an old acquaintance of Lin Shi appeared at the canteen entrance. If Lin Shi saw that person, he would probably be quite surprised, because it was none other than Chi-Shuang, Chi-Shuang's cousin whom he hadn't seen in a long time since parting ways with Chi-Shuang. Coincidentally, there was a man beside Chi-Shuang at this moment. This man was also no stranger to Lin Shi. He could be considered an old acquaintance. It was Lu Ding, the former police officer who had made things difficult for Lin Shi in High City and later continued to cause trouble for him in the apocalyptic base. Lu Ding wore the neat uniform of the guard squad, looking imposing, but his expression clearly revealed his arrogance. Yeah, this is the base's canteen. Except for high-ranking officials, no one is allowed in here on normal days. Today, I booked this place exclusively to treat you to a meal. Yeah, will you marry me? Chi-Shuang's face stiffened. Lu Ding, we're just having a normal meal. There's no need to come to such a luxurious place. Besides, we're not that close. We haven't reached the point of a marriage proposal. This statement was clearly a rejection. Lu Ding naturally knew that his relationship with Chi-Shuang hadn't reached the point of marriage. He had been pursuing her for over a year. Before the apocalypse, during a mission, Lu Ding met Chi-Shuang. At that time, she was a corporate drone. Attracted by her beautiful appearance, he aggressively pursued her. But from the beginning, Chi-Shuang felt they were incompatible and tactfully rejected him multiple times. This only made Lu Ding hold on to hope. Until the apocalypse arrived, Lu Ding used his former identity as a police officer to enter the base, became a member of the guard squad, and luckily became a Tier 2 evolver a few days ago. At this point, Lu Ding believed the time was ripe. Inviting Chi-Shuang to the canteen for a meal was just an excuse. He wouldn't delay his path to getting stronger for a woman. He just wanted to use this quiet place to force Chi-Shuang to agree to be his woman. As for whether they would get married or not, he would decide later. With his current status, countless women surrounded him. If those women weren't far inferior to Chi-Shuang, Lu Ding would have long stopped caring about this woman pretending to be pure and noble. Chi-Shuang's rejection infuriated Lu Ding. Chi-Shuang, you're still just an ordinary person at this point. Do you know that if it weren't for my protection, you would have been eaten alive by those evolvers? Don't be so shameless. If it weren't for Lu Ding, wouldn't those people have set their sights on Chi-Shuang? A bitter smile appeared on the corner of Chi-Shuang's mouth, while a hint of resentment flashed in her eyes. She really didn't like Lu Ding. Agreeing to eat with him was already her biggest concession. The base had rules against harassing women, but the monitoring forces were insufficient. Especially since the guard squad often turned a blind eye, bad things happened frequently in the base. With the base being so crowded, the higher-ups simply couldn't manage everything. Maintaining relative peace and order was already thanks to the strong management of the base's top brass. Chi-Shuang knew that as long as she didn't get stronger, even if she rejected this Lu Ding, a second or third Lu Ding would appear. She simply couldn't hide or prevent it. Chi-Shuang took a deep breath. Right at that moment, the elevator on this floor opened, and a group of people stepped out. Brother Lin, the canteen is here. This place is usually empty. There are people here today. Huang Miao looked in surprise at Lu Ding and Chi-Shuang at the canteen entrance. Hearing the elevator, thinking a big shot had arrived at the canteen, Lu Ding quickly retracted his fierce expression and became respectful. But when he realized the arrivals were Huang Miao, Su Feifei, And the others, a look of disdain quickly appeared on his face, followed by uncontrollable anger. As a member of the guard squad, he was very familiar with the Tier 2 evolvers in the base, and also very familiar with Xiao Xiao's lackeys. They were all from High City and lived on the same floor, though they rarely saw each other normally. "What are you doing here?" Lu Ding shouted. Xiaoa was about to answer when a group of people suddenly appeared to ruin the mood and even startled him. Lu Ding was furious. He heard that Xiao Xiao returned to the base this morning as a cripple. So these people no longer had a Tier 2 evolver as their backer. Xiaoa didn't look at anyone else. She looked directly at Lin Shi, who was standing in the middle of the crowd, seemingly surrounded by a halo. "Lin Shi, it's you." Since arriving here, Xiaoa had searched for traces of Lin Shi and Chi-Shuang in the base many times. But because the base was crowded and complex, despite asking around, she still couldn't find them. Su Feifei was even almost harassed. At this moment, seeing Lin Shi again, Xiaoa was extremely happy and emotional. Lu Ding noticed the change in Xiaoa's expression. His gaze immediately shifted to Lin Shi, who was walking with Huang Miao and the others. Seeing it was just a stranger, Lu Ding sneered disdainfully, anger rising in his heart. Another country bumpkin, and an acquaintance of Xiaoa at that. Seeing Xiaoa's passionate gaze directed at Lin Shi, Lu Ding felt like he was being cuckolded. Before Lin Shi could answer, Lu Ding shouted loudly, "Get the hell out of my sight right now. Otherwise, I'll arrest you for disturbing the peace." "Officer Lu, there might be a misunderstanding. We're here to eat," Huang Miao quickly explained. "Just you guys? You dare say you're coming to the canteen to eat?" Lu Ding sneered disdainfully. "What merits do you have? Get lost. Otherwise, don't blame me for not holding back. Right, you stay? The rest of you get lost." Lu Ding pointed at Lin Shi. Lin Shi chuckled. He had just found a few acquaintances to do some work, but he didn't expect to run into so many familiar faces. Coincidentally, last time at the official base, Lu Ding seemed to be the captain of some guard squad. This time, he was just a squad member, yet he was still so arrogant. TCH. Trash is still trash, no matter how the circumstances change. Seeing Lu Ding targeting Lin Shi, Xiaoa's face showed panic. Meanwhile, Su Qin, Su Feifei, and Huang Miao were both angry and indignant. Right at that moment, the sound of the elevator opening rang out. Li Xinke, wearing a white coat and a badge identifying him as the director of the Science Research Institute, leisurely stepped out of the elevator, followed by two fully armed guards. Seeing the crowd at the canteen entrance, Li Xinke was surprised. Is it this crowded today? In everyone's eyes, Li Xinke was one of the most mysterious figures in the base. He usually stayed at the Science Research Institute, and apart from a few top-level officials, rarely anyone got to see him. Li Xinke's sudden appearance elicited different reactions from everyone. The first time Lu Ding saw Li Xinke, he noticed the badge on his chest. Seeing the large words Director of the Science Research Institute on the name tag, Lu Ding's eyes widened. He had heard that Director Li of the Science Research Institute frequently appeared at the canteen, but no one dared to approach him. He didn't expect to run into him by chance this time. Appearing at the canteen at this hour, it was definitely Li Xinke himself. Lu Ding immediately retracted his expression, restored his respectful demeanor, and said, "How are you, Director Li? These people are causing trouble here. I was just about to take them away. Please go in and eat first, Director. I'll handle this quickly. I guarantee I won't disturb your meal." He didn't expect that today he would run into the elusive director right at the canteen entrance. Lu Ding was already calculating in his mind. If he could get into Director Li's good graces, buying the expensive and scarce gene serums would be much easier. After all, the gene serums were produced by the Science Research Institute. But Li Xinke didn't react to Lu Ding at all. His eyes immediately turned toward Lin Shi. Perhaps due to his spiritual power being stronger than ordinary people, Li Xinke vaguely recalled some memories from before the treasure basins reversing heaven and earth. The two of them had met twice before the apocalypse. Once was when Lin Shi gave Li Xinke the divine tree's sap to temper his body, and then handed him some pre-apocalyptic research materials for further in-depth study. The other time was when Li Xinke actively sought out Lin Shi to discuss and research the runes on the treasure basin. But generally speaking, counting from the start of the apocalypse until now, the two hadn't seen each other for over a year. The few months before and after the apocalypse, everyone in the base was very busy. Xiaoa also worked hard because of the sudden changes in the external environment and the explosion of raw materials. Lin Shi's current aura was vastly different from before. Xiaoa's first reaction was to examine whether the person in front of him was really Lin Shi. Old man Li, long time no see, Lin Shi spoke first. Lin Shi, it really is you. Why are you here at this time? Wow, brother Lin actually knows Director Li. Huang Miao, Su Qin, and Su Feifei whispered in astonishment. Su Qin and Su Feifei were also very surprised. What did brother Lin just call Director Li? Old man Li? Could it be they knew each other from before? And they're very close. I heard Director Li doesn't even give face to Sia Chan, the leader of the Xiao family. Since when did he act so friendly with anyone? This is amazing. Lin Shi is too powerful. Lu Ding was stunned speechless. This young man who suddenly appeared actually knew Director Li. Could he be his junior? Regardless, while Lin Shi and Xiaoa were talking, Lu Ding didn't dare to interrupt. After a few words of conversation, Xiaoa glanced at Lu Ding, who had just been looking at Lin Shi with cold eyes, and said, "Are you in some kind of trouble? Need my help?" Lu Ding immediately broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly waved his hands. Misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. I didn't recognize him. I just saw that he looked friendly earlier, so I wanted to chat with him for a bit. Lu Ding still wanted to justify what he had just said. At this moment, Lu Ding secretly rejoiced that he hadn't said anything too out of line. He also felt regretful that this pretty boy actually knew Director Xiaoa. He didn't know if it was good luck or bad luck to run into this person. Lu Ding still thought Lin Shi was a junior or family member of Xiaoa. In Xiaoa's eyes, Lin Shi was truly a senior-level figure. If Xiaoa hadn't appeared, and if Lin Shi was just an ordinary person, Lu Ding definitely wouldn't have let him off easily. He would have tortured, humiliated, and even secretly killed Lin Shi. But in reality, if Xiaoa hadn't arrived, Lu Ding would have long been lying in a pool of blood. Lin Shi had seen right through Lu Ding, and he had absolutely no good impression of him. Therefore, when Xiaoa spoke up, Lin Shi said, "This Captain Lu looks quite strong. Didn't you just say the research institute is short on people?" Xiaoa narrowed his eyes, glanced at Lin Shi, then at Lu Ding, knowing that Lu Ding had definitely offended Lin Shi heavily. Where was the Science Research Institute short on people? The smartest and most capable people in the country were already there. If they were short on anything, it was test subjects. They usually used death row inmates or dying people, paid them enough money, and used them for experiments. This matter was highly classified. Besides Lin Shi and a few top executives of the institute, no one knew. Therefore, Xiaoa looked at Lu Ding with a slightly pitying gaze, then said, "That's right. Starting today, go report to the Science Research Institute." Lu Ding thought going to the Research Institute was a good thing. Others wanted to get in, but couldn't. And Lin Shi got him in with just one sentence. He immediately looked at Lin Shi and Xiaoa with eyes full of gratitude. "Thank you, buddy. Thank you, Director Li. I'll go back and prepare right away." Immediately, he ignored Xiaoa and headed straight for the elevator, preparing to pack his things to go to the Research Institute. Huang Miao and the others watched Lu Ding leave with envy. They didn't understand why Lin Shi was so kind-hearted, even returning good for evil. If Lin Shi could let them in too, that would be great. If Lin Shi knew what they were thinking, he would definitely laugh inwardly. Don't rush. Even if you don't enter the Research Institute, you can still become test subjects. All right, since you're here, I'll treat you to a meal today. Are these your friends? Let's all go together. Xiaoa waved his hand, pointing at Xiaoa, Huang Miao, and the others. Xiaoa was stunned by this unexpected situation. Hearing Xiaoa call her name, she still hadn't reacted, thinking to herself, "I get to go in too? I heard this place is very expensive." Just earlier, Lu Ding used the meal as an excuse to force her to accept his proposal. "This old man has contribution points. Just come on in." Xiaoa waved his hand, leading the way into the canteen. Huang Miao, Su Feifei, and Su Qin immediately took the opportunity to thank Xiaoa. "Thank you, Director Li." Getting to eat with Director Li, and in the canteen no less. Who would dare dream of this? Even if they told anyone, no one would believe it. Everyone saw the remaining contribution points displayed on Xiaoa's device. Over 10 million. They stared wide-eyed, their jaws dropping. Lin Shi calmly followed along. Su Qin and the other two hurriedly chased after him. Seeing Lin Shi go in, Qin Ye thought for a moment, then boldly followed. Only the two guards didn't go in. Following Li Xinka's signal, they stood guard outside the canteen. The canteen had a few head chefs. The one on duty today was Li Xinka's old acquaintance. Director Li, you're here to eat, a head chef hurriedly asked. What would the director like to have today? The canteen was empty, but there were no waiters. It was considered a luxury spot for those who enjoyed fine dining. Before the apocalypse, it was hard to even invite these head chefs. Now they had to wipe tables, pour water, and serve. But they also felt satisfied, because without this job, they would just be ordinary people in the base, not even able to fill their stomachs every day. Today I'll have oil-splashed noodles. Ask these folks what they want to eat. Put it all on my tab. Yes, sir. What would you all like to eat? Brought in by Li Xinka. How could the head chefs dare to be negligent? Only Lin Shi was relaxed and at ease. The other four were quite reserved. They knew eating here was very expensive, so they didn't dare displease Li Xinka. Su Feifei cautiously said, I'd like a portion of chicken curry with rice. Is that okay? Of course. What do you ladies want? I just want a bowl of noodles. Qin Ye looked at Lin Shi and said softly, Huang Miao, I also want chicken curry with rice. Su Qin, I'll have the same as Director Li, a bowl of oil-splashed noodles. When it was Lin Shi's turn, he blinked. Do you guys have all kinds of things? Yes. The ingredients here were all transported from before the apocalypse and kept in cold storage. It includes everything you can think of. The head chef replied confidently. Lin Shi nodded. 3 Emperor King crabs, each over 10 caddies. 10 portions of bluefin tuna sashimi. Can you make Peking roast duck? 3 of them. Add some yellowfin tuna, bird's nest soup, and Buddha jumps over the wall. Lin Shi ordered over a dozen dishes in one breath, ordering large quantities for each. Let's start with this. If it's not enough, I'll order more, Lin Shi said. This way of ordering stunned the head chef. Such a luxurious meal would shock people even in a high-end restaurant before the apocalypse, let alone after the apocalypse, when ingredient prices had skyrocketed over 100 times. Not only the head chef, but everyone in the canteen, including Li Xinka, was stunned by Lin Shi's order. The head chef's hand trembled as he took notes. He glanced at Li Xinka, asking for his opinion with his eyes. These dishes, I estimate, will cost over 3 million contribution points. Then he looked at Lin Shi, thinking to himself, is this kid deliberately trying to make things difficult for Li Xinka? Over 3 million. Su Qin, Su Feifei, and the others stared wide-eyed, their jaws dropping. Over 3 million. Exchanging that for gene serums could get you over 100 vials. Ever since the gene serum was improved, even though it cost 30,000 contribution points to exchange for 1 vial. Each vial increased origin power by 6 units. If exchanged for gene serums for any of them, it could help them quickly unlock Tier 2 genes. Even if they had enough spiritual power, they could go straight to Tier 3. And this was just for 1 meal. Qin Ye almost blurted out, afraid Li Xinka would blame Lin Shi for ordering too much. She hurriedly said, I suddenly don't feel hungry. I don't need my portion anymore. Lin Shi looked at her in surprise. Since you're here, just eat. Don't be polite. Li Xinka thought to himself, not bad, kid. You really aren't holding back, huh? Even though his heart ached, Li Xinka was still very generous. He waved his hand at the head chef. Make it. Make a lot. I'm afraid he won't have enough to eat. This meal really opened everyone's eyes. The whole afternoon, everyone basically just watched Lin Shi eat. Even a normal bowl of noodles was made by the head chef here to taste like a 3-star Michelin dish. And clearly, the food in front of them were rare delicacies they hadn't tasted in so long. But when compared to the feast in front of Lin Shi, everyone instantly felt their lunch was no longer appealing. Even before the apocalypse, it was hard to meet someone who ordered such a luxurious meal in reality. The price was one reason. Another reason was that ordinary people couldn't eat that much. But Lin Shi couldn't even finish it all. The body of a Tier 8 evolver consumed a lot of energy, so Lin Shi ate a lot. When Lin Shi finished eating, Li Xinka took the long receipt from the head chef, his eyelids twitching uncontrollably, his heart aching immensely. Lin Shi took a hot wet towel to wipe his hands and mouth. Seeing Li Xinka's pained expression, he smiled and said, How could I let you spend so much, old man? This meal is on me. Even though his heart ached, Xiaoa was very firm about treating him. Lin Shi couldn't persuade him, so he had to let Xiaoa swipe his contribution points. Seeing Xiaoa only had less than 10 million contribution points left, Lin Shi suddenly wanted to know how many he had. He walked up to the machine and scanned his face. At first, no one paid attention, until they saw the machine display Lin Shi's contribution point balance as a string of zeros that made them dizzy. Oh my god! So many! Huang Miao's eyes widened. 10, 100,000, million. 10 billion. Except for Xiaoa and Lin Shi, everyone stared wide-eyed, their jaws dropping. Even the head chef, who was secretly defending Xiaoa in his heart, was shocked. Su Feifei felt she had counted wrong and counted again. 10, 100,000, 100,000, million. 10 billion. It really is 10 billion. Only Xiaoa looked at this string of numbers, still secretly complaining about the stingy calculations. Lin Shi's contribution points included the items he had exchanged for points, as well as Lin Shi's prior notification to the government about the apocalyptic event, which helped many Xia country compatriots survive, allowing Xia country to prepare thoroughly and retain so many resources. Lin Shi's merits to Xia country couldn't be measured by just 10 billion contribution points. It could be said that Lin Shi was the benefactor of the entire Xia country. If Lin Shi hadn't forbidden the government people from making it public, he would have already become the savior in the hearts of all Xia country people. Of course, he might also encounter more trouble. In short, in Xiaoa's eyes, 10 billion contribution points was nothing. But Xiaoa knew the truth, while the others didn't. Su Qin covered her mouth, looking at the machine in disbelief, then at Lin Shi. Is this machine broken? Hearing Su Qin say the machine was broken, the others immediately understood. Then they all breathed a sigh of relief. The head chef wiped the non-existent sweat from his forehead and seriously affirmed, "The machine must be broken. I'll call the technical department to fix it." Everyone thought it was reasonable for the equipment to be broken. After all, who could possess 10 billion contribution points? The evolvers in the base usually hunted origin beasts in groups and split the contribution points equally. Each person only received tens of millions of points. Only Xiaoa knew the machine was still working perfectly. Xiaoa said, "Let's go." The machine isn't broken. He patted Lin Shi's shoulder and said, "Let's go. Come sit at my place for a bit." "I can't. Let's do it another time. I still have things to do." After lunch, it was time to get down to business. Xiaoa glanced at Qin, Su Qin, and Su Feifei, who were following Lin Shi. "All right, come hang out at my place when you're free. I've hoarded quite a few good things, completely different from before." In this apocalypse, thanks to Lin Shi's reminder, many people in the base had stockpiled food. Xiaoa naturally had some too. After Xiaoa left, Lin Shi and the others left the canteen. Lin Shi pointed at Su Qin and said, "Su Qin, I need you to help me with something. I'll pay you. Do you agree?" After thinking and observing, Lin Shi decided to use Su Qin to test that earring. As for Chi-Shuang, she was Chi-Shuang's cousin after all, and had once tried to save Chi-Shuang. Lin Shi wasn't so short on people that he needed to use Chi-Shuang, nor did he lack people to use as tools. Regarding Chi-Shuang's current situation, Lin Shi would ask Lin Tianrui or Wang Chao to help out, so her life would be better, at least avoiding being bullied by others. Hearing her name called, Su Qin froze for a moment before snapping back to reality, saying joyfully, "Me?" Then she followed Lin Shi. The others were either unwilling or regretful, but could only watch Lin Shi and Su Qin leave. Qin watched Lin Shi's back, taking quite a while to recover her senses. Lin Shi led Su Qin out of the base, to a deserted place, an abandoned building that hadn't completely collapsed. On the way, Su Qin lowered her head to adjust her clothes and used her hands to smooth her hair. After Lin Shi used his spiritual power to confirm there were no disturbances around, he turned to Su Qin and said, "This place is fine." Su Qin nodded, both eager and nervous. She shyly looked up at Lin Shi. It wasn't until Lin Shi seriously took out an earring from his pocket that Su Qin asked in surprise, "What is this?" "I want you to wear this earring. After putting it on, whatever you see or feel, you must report it to me in detail. If you can do it, I'll pay you 1 million contribution points." 1 million. Su Qin stared wide-eyed. A look of greed quickly appeared in her eyes. She knew Lin Shi had 10 billion contribution points. Even the director of the Science Research Institute said the machine wasn't broken. That proved Lin Shi's massive amount of contribution points was real. 1 million contribution points was enough for Su Qin to unlock Tier 2 genes. In the base, he was an existence that Tier 1 evolvers and ordinary people didn't dare provoke and was respected by the guards. That's right. As long as you agree and fulfill my request, I'll give you 1 million. Lin Shi still held the earring in his hand. He waited silently for Su Qin's answer. Su Qin wasn't an idiot. She knew that if it was just an ordinary earring, Lin Shi couldn't possibly be so generous as to give her 1 million contribution points. After thinking for a moment, Su Qin finally decided, I agree. Wealth is found in danger. It was just an earring. Even if it had nuclear radiation, with an evolver's physique and the rapid recovery from plenty of medicine, it probably wouldn't kill her just by putting it on. Moreover, Lin Shi hadn't shown any malice from beginning to end. Maybe he just wanted her to wear the earring to find some excuse. Su Qin comforted herself. Lin Shi knew Su Qin would agree. Su Qin was inherently greedy but also knew how to weigh the pros and cons. Therefore, he chose Su Qin. As for Su Feifei, if 1 million contribution points meant risking her life, she might not necessarily agree. Because Su Feifei was entirely capable of slowly achieving that goal of 1 million points. Lin Shi didn't choose Huang Miao because he had considered that this earring was previously used by Shuai. Perhaps the condition for using it was that it had to be a woman. Therefore, he chose the person who would agree most easily and was the most suitable, Su Qin. Su Qin took the earring from Lin Shi's hand, feeling nothing unusual. She felt relieved and put it on her right ear. But immediately, as if struck by lightning, Su Qin's expression changed drastically. Lin Shi closely observed Su Qin's changes. Seeing that Su Qin's eyes didn't become unfamiliar, he knew he had guessed somewhat correctly. After killing Shuai, the people of the Sanlian continent, perhaps out of wariness or for other reasons, didn't continue to transmit another consciousness to replace the earring's owner in the short term. Therefore, this vessel currently only retained its basic information storage function and no longer had the ability to be possessed by another consciousness. After a moment, Lin Shi asked, How is it? What do you see? Can you tell me? As soon as she put on the earring, Su Qin saw something that made her mind churn like a tsunami, stirring up massive waves. She didn't expect an earring to overturn her previous scientific understanding. Su Qin regained her composure, trying to keep her voice normal. She looked at Lin Shi and said, I saw a line of text suddenly appear in front of my eyes, asking if I wanted to bind the symbiosis to become the host. Continue. I initially thought it was a hallucination, so I accidentally chose yes, Su Qin said. Su Qin thought she was being very discreet when using her mind to view the symbiosis interface, but how could the slight changes in her eyes escape Lin Shi's superior perception? Not to mention Lin Shi also had the treasure basin. Lin Shi didn't expose Su Qin's petty thoughts. If Su Qin had asked him whether she should bind it or not, he would have let her choose for herself anyway. And then what? What else did you see? I saw the user manual for this item. It says this is a support item for absorbing origin power, and it can also connect to the main brain of another world. Su Qin slowly recounted what she saw to Lin Shi. This information wasn't much different from what Lin Shi already knew. Lin Shi wanted to know information related to the Sanlian continent, but Su Qin didn't mention a single word about it. Lin Shi immediately realized Su Qin was hiding something. His gaze instantly turned cold. Don't think that just because I let you wear this thing, it belongs to you. A bone-chilling coldness ran down Su Qin's spine. She looked at Lin Shi in front of her in panic. Su Qin didn't expect that Lin Shi, the gentle college student from back then, would have such a drastic change in aura. Just now, she caught a glimpse of a demon who killed without blinking, staring at her with glowing red eyes, as if he could tear her apart at any moment. I really didn't lie to you. Su Qin stammered, involuntarily stepping back, seemingly wanting to stay away from this terrifying man. But when she met Lin Shi's sharp, murderous gaze, her heart pounded. Her face turned as pale as a sheet of paper, her lips trembling. She took a deep breath, trying to calm down and muster the courage to face Lin Shi, but her voice still trembled. I've really told you everything I saw. She wanted to test if she could hide it from Lin Shi. Still the same old saying, wealth is found in danger. If she could get this thing, she wouldn't have to worry for the rest of her life, wouldn't have to look at anyone's face, wouldn't have to rely on anyone. Lin Shi understood Su Qin's thoughts perfectly. He also knew this matter wasn't easy. This kind of vessel was enough to arouse anyone's greed. Anyway, if this person didn't cooperate, he could just find someone else. Looking at Lin Shi's strangely cold eyes, a terrifying memory flashed through Su Qin's mind, so fast she couldn't grasp it. Lin Shi looked at Su Qin like looking at a corpse. I'll say this one last time. Recount everything you saw, in clear detail. Why do you think I safely handed this important thing to you? Do you think I don't know the vessel's functions? Lin Shi's gaze was like two sharp swords, piercing straight into the depths of Su Qin's soul. At this moment, an image of a sharp dagger piercing her heart flashed in Su Qin's mind. And the person holding that dagger was the Lin Shi in front of her. You know everything? Su Qin didn't dare hide it anymore. She realized that if she continued to push her luck, Lin Shi would really kill her. All right, I admit it. I did see some things. This vessel. Besides what I just said, there are two other pieces of information I haven't mentioned. One is that this vessel is called symbiosis. It can absorb or return origin power to a person through intimate physical contact. There's another piece of information with a red note. It says, activating a special option allows this vessel to take me back to the Somnian continent. Su Qin was afraid Lin Shi would kill her. If that happened, she would get nothing, so she had to tell him everything she knew. She originally planned to rely on the second piece of information, that red note, to leave this place and go somewhere Lin Shi couldn't find her. But on second thought, this thing was given by Lin Shi in the first place. Su Qin didn't dare to gamble. Is there any other information? You should know, if you hide anything, I can find someone else to get the information. At that time, not only will you not get the contribution points, but you'll also lose your life. I don't. I've really told you everything. This time it's truer than real gold. This time, Su Qin showed earnest sincerity, afraid Lin Shi would misunderstand. Seeing Lin Shi deep in thought, Su Qin couldn't help but ask, where is the Somnian continent? Lin Shi looked at her and said, a place the living cannot go. Su Qin thought Lin Shi was warning her not to ask things she shouldn't, and immediately lowered her head in silence. Lin Shi said, now try to see if you can unbind from it. Su Qin bit her lip, finally suppressing her greed, and tried to unbind. What surprised Lin Shi was that Su Qin only needed to take off the earring and hand it to him. Lin Shi picked up the earring and examined it closely. It wasn't much different from the one he had handed to Su Qin earlier. How did you unbind it? I just thought about unbinding it, and a prompt appeared asking if I wanted to unbind. I chose yes. Su Qin looked at Lin Shi, a bit nervous. Is that okay? Lin Shi put the earring in his pocket. Su Qin breathed a sigh of relief, then looked at Lin Shi expectantly, waiting for him to hand over the 1 million contribution points to her. But Lin Shi said, you've completed the task. 3 strikes and you're out. If there's a next life, I promise not to kill you. After saying that, a powerful murderous intent shot into Su Qin's head. Su Qin didn't even have time to scream before her body went limp and collapsed. Before she died, she still maintained a look of astonishment. With a thought, Lin Shi stored Su Qin's corpse into his spatial dimension. From beginning to end, he had planned to use a living person to test the earring. Even though he had killed Su Qin once in his past life, Lin Shi still showed no mercy this time. Lin Shi went straight back to the Lin family base. The trusted Lin Shi had returned. The people of the Lin family were all very happy. After knowing the earring was currently safe, Lin Shi went to find Old Black to test it again. The result was exactly as Lin Shi remembered. Males couldn't use this item. Old Black got his ear pierced, but wearing the earring still brought no changes. Therefore, Lin Shi went to find Chi-Shuang. Lin Shi immediately told Chi-Shuang about meeting Xiaoa at the base. If you want to bring your cousin back to the Lin family, that's fine. You decide this matter yourself. No need to ask me. I have something else to ask you. Hearing that Xiaoa was at the base, Chi-Shuang wasn't surprised at all. What is it? Let's handle the main business first. I'll take care of my cousin's matter. Lin Shi took out the symbiosis earring. Chi-Shuang already knew about the existence of the Somnian continent and the treasure basin. Lin Shi talked about his suspicion that someone from the Somnian continent was using a vessel to occupy the bodies of people on Earth. He also clearly explained Shui Yu's situation and the vessel to Chi-Shuang. This is a vessel. In essence, it and my treasure basin should share the same origin. This item is currently useless to me. I'm asking you, do you want to use it? Actually, the symbiosis ability is very weak. It only absorbs or returns origin power to a person, and it requires intimate physical contact. It has no other functions. It's just a support item for absorbing origin power, and using it comes with risks. It really does more harm than good. But it has another function, which is that it can transfer a person's consciousness back to the Somnian continent. Lin Shi actually had a thought in his mind. What if he found a trustworthy person and let their consciousness return to the Somnian continent? Would they occupy Shui Yu's old body and live in the Somnian continent? It had to be said, this was too risky. Shui Yu was dead, and the other side might have already noticed. So Lin Shi didn't mention this to Chi-Shuang. Chi-Shuang looked at the earring, hesitated for only a moment, and said, I'll use it. The first part of the previous chapter was a bit hard to understand. Let's skip it for now. Back to before the apocalypse, Lin Shi and the Demon King. The AI generated the wrong eye color. Lin Shi handed the earring to Chi-Shuang. Chi-Shuang took it and put it on. Similar to Su Qin's case, Chi-Shuang's eyes flashed. Immediately, she bound the symbiosis. Chi-Shuang saw the situation before speaking, just like Su Qin's case. Chi-Shuang's eyes suddenly flashed, and she successfully bound the symbiosis. Chi-Shuang meticulously recounted everything she saw to Lin Shi. As Lin Shi expected, the information obtained wasn't much different from what he got from Su Qin. Lin Shi nodded slightly, indicating he already knew this. Then he instructed, go back and try to see if you can unlock any other functions to gather more useful information. But you must be careful. If you feel a consciousness from the Somnian continent being transmitted, come find me immediately. Also, try not to leave the base these next few days. I will always keep an eye on your situation. All right, I understand. Then I'll head out first. Chi-Shuang said goodbye to Lin Shi and left. Outside the door, Chi-Shuang reached up and touched the earring, a smile appearing on her face. After that incident, the Lin family base returned to its peaceful state. For the next 2 days, Lin Shi frequently used his powerful spiritual power to monitor Chi-Shuang, to prevent her mind from being invaded and her body controlled by a consciousness from another world. Soon, it was the 3rd day since Lin Shi returned home. On that day, a group of uninvited guests finally set foot on Xia country's soil. On that day, Chi-Shuang received news that Shui Yu had failed her mission, along with a new mission order. Without hesitation, he gathered all the members of the dynasty base. Like a boiling tide, a massive force surged into Xia country's territory from Basin country. For 3 days, Chi-Shuang didn't care at all about the lives or deaths of the people in the dynasty base. He forced them to march thousands of kilometers. Even though people were constantly left behind or died of exhaustion along the way, Chi-Shuang didn't flinch. Those left behind or dead on the road all became food for the origin beasts. To keep these people moving, Chi-Shuang deployed his subordinates and origin beasts to guard the rear and flanks of the army. The purpose was to prevent anyone in the group from escaping. If he didn't do this, he couldn't possibly complete the mission in 7 days. And if he failed, he would be eliminated. In the Somnian continent, there were people ready to replace him and control the Dark Star. Seeing the surviving army reduced by more than half from several million people, Chi-Shuang felt no regret. He passed down an order, telling those people that they were almost at their destination. Hold on a little longer. When we get there, there will be endless food, unlimited hot water, and clean clothes and bedding. Just endure it. Supplies are right in front of us. At this time, the Grand Army had reached the outskirts of the southern province. Soon, they would approach Lin Shi's base and the government base. At the same time, in the government base, thanks to many sophisticated equipment still intact, Sia Chan's subordinate reported, "Leader, the long-range radar has detected a large army appearing in the southern province, heading towards our base." Sia Chan, who was working, looked up. How many people? Estimated at 2.3 million people, and over 1,000 origin beasts. Send someone to see who it is, and tell the vice leader to prepare the soldiers for battle. The base quickly received the information. The scouts immediately reported the detailed situation to Sia Chan. Knowing the opposing party was from Asan country, Sia Chan frowned. Previously, Lin Tianrui had gone to Asan country, but had to return because he encountered their vice leader. Later, that vice leader and a group of subordinates planned to come to the government base, but suddenly disappeared overnight. Knowing it was Lin Shi's doing, Sia Chan didn't pay it any more mind. However, this time the people from Asan country came here to settle scores or seek revenge. Sia Chan immediately ordered, notify them at once. Intercept the enemy forces. As soon as Sia Chan gave the order, Lin Tianrui immediately got to work. Combat orders were issued promptly. The enemy had a massive number of people. Lin Tianrui decided to use traps and long-range attacks to harass them, aiming to intimidate and repel them. However, the plan failed. Not long after, Lin Tianrui received a report from the front lines. The operation failed. The enemy had someone with extremely powerful spiritual power, easily neutralizing their long-range weapons and traps. Moreover, their advance was very aggressive. Soon, Lin Tianrui's subordinates brought back the enemy leader's reply. This time, they weren't targeting the Xia country government, but only the Lin family base. They hoped the Xia country government wouldn't interfere, otherwise, they wouldn't show mercy. Lin Tianrui didn't expect these people to target Lin Shi. Understanding the situation, he immediately went to find Sia Chan to discuss their next move. At the same time, Chi-Shuang had approached the Lin family base. He gently stroked his mount's neck. Good boy, make your move. Then, without hesitation, he snapped his mount's neck. The other subordinates also immediately killed their own mounts. Chi-Shuang ordered his subordinates to gather the beast corpses, then used the Dark Star's power to absorb the origin power from their bodies. Excellent. The more origin power I have, the higher my chances of winning. For this final stretch, let them hold on a bit longer. They can only advance. Taking a step back means death. If it weren't for his spiritual power being insufficient for battle, Chi-Shuang would definitely kill everyone behind him and absorb all the origin power in their bodies. The Dark Star could inherently support the enhancement of spiritual power. It was a pity there wasn't enough time now. The subordinates received the order. Yes, King. Receiving news that the target was right in front of them, the army sped up again. But Chi-Shuang's army was intercepted before they even reached the Lin family base. Lin Shi had already received news that a large army was approaching the Lin family base, and the messenger was the government base. Lin Shi didn't let the government base intervene, because he knew the dynasty base still had a Tier 7 powerhouse. Therefore, the ones intercepting them this time were the Mount Legion led by the Demon King and the Lin family members. Without a word, the two sides clashed as soon as they met. Although there was a huge disparity in numbers, there was also a huge disparity in strength. On the Lin family's side, the Demon King was Tier 8, and the over 100 mounts in the Legion were all Tier 6. Furthermore, the Lin family side was full of powerhouses at Tier 3 and above. In Chi-Shuang's army, the majority were Tier 1 and Tier 2 evolvers. Coupled with the exhaustion from the long journey, they were simply no match. When he saw the Demon King appear, Chi-Shuang knew things were bad, but he was prepared. The Demon King let out a howl, and over 100 Tier 6 origin beasts charged into Chi-Shuang's main formation. Flesh, blood, and cartilage splattered everywhere. The battle was completely one-sided. The low-tier evolvers, who were already exhausted, were simply no match for the Tier 6 origin beasts. Their attacks landing on the origin beasts were like scratching an itch. Every claw swipe, every tail whip from the origin beasts brought forth a spray of blood. Even if the Lin family members didn't make a move, just the over 100 origin beasts were enough to wipe out the millions of people here. Among the crowd, a Lin family member shouted loudly, "Surrender, and you won't be killed." But the people in this base had been brainwashed. The weak had been eliminated long ago, leaving only the ferocious and brutal. Even though their weapons couldn't harm the origin beasts, they still had red eyes, wanting to bite a piece of flesh off their bodies. Some even wanted to bite a piece of flesh off the Lin family members. The scene was incredibly bloody. Fresh blood stained the white snow, creating terrifying red streaks. The Demon King watched its subordinates slaughtering indiscriminately among the crowd without making a move itself. It calmly observed the entire battlefield. It was looking for the Tier 7 evolver its master had mentioned. But unfortunately, the Demon King wouldn't find him. Right when the Demon King, along with the Origin Beast Army and the Lin family members, was decimating Chi-Shuang's formation, Chi-Shuang, who was originally standing in the middle of the army, vanished without a trace. The Dark Star, besides its ability to absorb Origin power from underground and the surface, could also conceal its owner's presence, helping them hide their aura and move underground. It also had a scanning function. However, these functions all had certain limitations. The reason the Dark Star was much stronger than the symbiosis was that it was a mid-tier vessel. At the same time Chi-Shuang disappeared, in the Lin family base, Lin Shi frowned. Initially, Chi-Shuang was still within the range of his spiritual power, but he suddenly vanished. He had scanned the surroundings, even the sky and underground, but still couldn't find any trace of Chi-Shuang. Lin Shi stood up and walked out of the headquarters. Underground, Chi-Shuang carefully moved through the mud while using the Dark Star's interface to observe the location of the symbiosis. Even hundreds of meters below the surface, Chi-Shuang could still feel the tremors from above. He brought everyone in the base out just to create a diversion. Chi-Shuang's goal wasn't to avenge Xiaoa, nor was it to confront Lin Shi, but simply to retrieve the symbiosis. If he didn't, he would be eliminated in a few days. Just like Xiaoa, Chi-Shuang was chosen from millions of people to become the user of the Dark Star. These two vessels didn't have high requirements for the original owner, but they had very high requirements for the new owner. The new owner must have spiritual power reaching a certain threshold to replace the original owner and become the new host. Chi-Shuang hadn't enjoyed enough of this glorious time yet. How could he be willing to die? Who would want to return to that damn Sonlian continent? He found it much better here. Chi-Shuang looked at the Dark Star interface. The location of the symbiosis was no longer far away. It was on a Tier 6 evolver. A look of certain victory flashed in his eyes. He just needed to get close to the person carrying the symbiosis and suddenly pull them underground. No matter how strong that person was, they would lose the ability to resist in an instant. When that time came, he wouldn't need to expend much effort to control the symbiosis vessel. At this moment, Chi-Shuang was at the Lin family headquarters, using her spiritual power to observe the battle situation dozens of kilometers away. Initially, Chi-Shuang also wanted to go into battle with the Lin family, but Lin Shi instructed her not to leave the Lin family base these few days. Therefore, Chi-Shuang listened to Lin Shi's words and didn't leave the perimeter of the Lin family base at all. But Chi-Shuang didn't know that someone had already set their sights on her. Just as Chi-Shuang was only a few hundred meters away from Chi-Shuang, Lin Shi appeared beside her. Chi-Shuang looked at Lin Shi in surprise. Lin Shi looked around, didn't notice anything unusual, and said to Chi-Shuang, "Stay put today. Follow me." Chi-Shuang's disappearance made Lin Shi realize that Chi-Shuang's vessel might have some special support abilities. This time, Chi-Shuang appeared near the Lin family base with so many people, yet Chi-Shuang himself disappeared. There was definitely another scheme. He himself was a Tier 8 evolver, which was fine, but Chi-Shuang was only Tier 6. If they were too far apart, she might unexpectedly encounter some danger. Chi-Shuang was a bit surprised, but still obediently agreed. Underground, Chi-Shuang used the Dark Star and detected a Tier 8 evolver appearing next to the Tier 6 evolver target he was looking for. Terrified, he stopped and didn't dare advance any further. Here, it could only be Lin Shi who was a Tier 8 evolver. No wonder Xiaoa quickly failed in taking over. It turned out Lin Shi had become a Tier 8 evolver again. Seeing the target and Lin Shi walking further and further away, until they left, Chi-Shuang finally emerged from underground. After coming above ground, he panted heavily. The Dark Star had consumed a massive amount of origin power for stealth and underground movement. On the way, Chi-Shuang had reserved quite a bit of origin power, but in just those short dozen minutes, the origin power in his body had been depleted by more than half. This vessel is good, but it consumes too much origin power. I wonder how much origin power Lin Shi consumes every day using the treasure basin. If Lin Shi heard this, he would definitely be very surprised. Then he would realize something. Because his treasure basin, except for the time he used reversing heaven and earth, normally never consumed any origin power at all. As for Lin Shi, he returned to the courtyard. At dusk, Chi-Shuang led the Lin family members back after a fierce battle. Millions of people couldn't possibly all be killed. In the end, the people in the dynasty base realized they were just committing suicide and began to scatter and flee. Those who fled were subdued by the government base forces waiting outside. Tonight, the Lin family base was as bustling as usual. The young people who had never experienced such a battlefield couldn't help but share their feelings with everyone around them, exhausted but excited. They didn't notice that an almost invisible person had blended into that bustling crowd. In the bathroom, a group of men were washing up in the public shower area to clean the blood off their bodies. Today was really satisfying. I've never killed so many people before. One person used a towel to wipe his body, and the white towel was quickly dyed red. But clearly, it wasn't his own blood. Tell me about it. Those Asan guys looked low tier, but they acted like maniacs. I even got bitten by a crazy woman. One person raised his arm, revealing a very deep bite mark. The others burst into laughter, also sharing what happened in today's battle. At this moment, a young man with slightly yellow skin holding a wash basin walked into the shower area. He went to a shower head and turned on the water. The people around noticed something unusual about that young man. "Brother, why isn't there any blood on you?" The shower area was packed with people right now, and the steam was thick, obscuring vision. Even without using spiritual power, it was hard to see the face of the person next to you clearly. Chi-Shuang lowered his head, imitating the others, turned on the faucet, rubbed soap on his head and face, and said, "I stood in the back today. I was careful, so I didn't get much blood splattered on me." "Haha, you weak kid. Scared on your first time killing people?" A person next to him mocked. Chi-Shuang replied, "Yeah, next time I definitely have to stand further up front." "Hey, brother, did the Patriarch make a move today?" "Of course not. If the Patriarch made a move, would it even be our turn? With the Patriarch's power, he could just launch 10,000 swords at once, right? Wouldn't those Asan guys be wiped out instantly? The Patriarch just gave us a chance to train. Otherwise, the battle would have been resolved in a few minutes." Hearing this, Chi-Shuang outwardly continued to pretend to wash up, but a look of deep apprehension flashed in his eyes. Then he pretended to say casually, "I really admire how strong the Patriarch is. A strong man like the Patriarch probably doesn't have any weaknesses, right?" The person next to him didn't answer. Another person standing one spot away from the one who just spoke chimed in. "As long as he's human, how could he not have weaknesses? Family, friends, the things he cares about, they're all weaknesses. The Patriarch said the people he cares about most are his family." Another person standing nearby agreed. "I already knew that. The Patriarch cares a lot about young Master Lin Siyuan, old Master Lin, and Miss Chi-Shuang. I see the Patriarch rarely smiles, but young Master Siyuan said the Patriarch actually smiles a lot." Right. Although the Patriarch is usually a man of few words, he's actually a very good person. While they were talking, the person who had just been standing next to Chi-Shuang noticed that the spot beside him was now empty. He asked in confusion, "Hey, where did that buddy from just now go?" Chi-Shuang left the shower area, casually grabbed a set of Lin family clothes, and went deep into the base. There were many people in the Lin family base, mostly those who had returned from all over the world before the apocalypse. Therefore, not everyone knew each other's faces. Moreover, at this time, the Lin family members were either washing up or lying down exhausted. It was easier for Chi-Shuang to infiltrate the Lin family base than he thought. Initially, the Lin family had Lin Shi using his spiritual power to cover the entire base. Any unfamiliar aura lower than Lin Shi's would find it hard to sneak in. After all, there were also Chi-Shuang, Lin Mingjin, Lin Yingxian, and Chi-Shuang monitoring. But after Chi-Shuang activated the Dark Star's stealth ability, he could evade all spiritual perception. Added to that was Chi-Shuang's Tier 7 agility. As long as their tier was lower than his, they couldn't detect him. Thus, no one noticed that an outsider had sneaked into the Lin family base. At this time, Lin Shi was in the courtyard bathing the Demon King. Today, the Demon King was covered in bloodstains, clearly having just gone through a bloody battle. Chi-Shuang assisted on the side, lathering the Demon King with a lot of fragrant soap, so fragrant that the Demon King had to sneeze a few times, trying hard to endure it. "Demon King, it'll be fine once you're washed clean." Lin Shi found a high-pressure water gun, switched it to hot water, and used it to scrub the soap off the Demon King. As Chi-Shuang got closer to the inner courtyard, the Demon King suddenly sniffed in a direction, seemingly detecting something. The Demon King's eyes flashed with human-like suspicion. It felt there was a strange scent nearby, but the overwhelming fragrance filling its nose made it unsure. Chi-Shuang had just finished showering, and the scent of body wash still lingered on him. Combined with the smell of fresh blood and soap on the Demon King, it further confused its sense of smell. The Demon King ultimately didn't alert Lin Shi. It decided to wait until Chi-Shuang finished showering to sniff carefully again. Just like that, Chi-Shuang bypassed the guards and appeared in the inner courtyard. He quickly approached the target the dark star indicated, an isolated Tier 6 evolver closest to him. Soon, Chi-Shuang arrived in front of Lin Siyuan's small building. Seeing that the target he found was just a child of a few years old, Chi-Shuang felt as if heaven was helping him. Excellent. It's just a child. A Tier 6 child. Looks like it's Lin Shi's little brother. No mistake. Chi-Shuang rejoiced inwardly, feeling that heaven and earth were blessing him. After all, it was just a child of a few years old. Even if he managed to reach Tier 6, how much power could he exert? Furthermore, I have the Dark Star's support. Sneaking up to this kid and snatching him will be as easy as flipping my hand. Chi-Shuang secretly felt lucky, taking cautious steps closer to Lin Siyuan. At this moment, he even imagined that once he caught Lin Siyuan, he could easily use him to exchange for the symbiosis of his dreams. Lin Siyuan was in the room, engrossed in playing with building blocks, seemingly unaware that someone was near. Until Chi-Shuang got behind him, ready to strangle him, a sharp cold gleam thrust upward from below, aiming straight at Chi-Shuang's vital spot. What? Chi-Shuang was startled, revealing a look of disbelief. He didn't expect that even with the Dark Star's support, he would still be discovered. Caught off guard, Chi-Shuang's reaction was a bit slow. Fortunately, his tier was higher than Lin Siyuan's. Relying on his tier advantage, he desperately leaned his body to dodge the attack. But Lin Siyuan didn't stop. The dagger in his hand immediately changed direction, thrusting toward where Chi-Shuang was dodging. Just one strike showed his rich combat experience. Who are you? What are you doing here? Lin Siyuan shouted loudly. His voice was childish, but there was no trace of fear or apprehension. Chi-Shuang thought to himself that things were bad. He turned and ran toward the nearest window, intending to break it and escape. This commotion would quickly attract Lin Shi. When that happened, Chi-Shuang absolutely wouldn't be able to escape. The Dark Star had also sounded an alarm. An unavoidable danger was approaching. But Lin Siyuan didn't intend to let Chi-Shuang go. He leaped lightly, kicking the half-finished building blocks toward Chi-Shuang. The wooden blocks shattered in midair into countless pieces, obscuring Chi-Shuang's vision. In the blink of an eye, Lin Siyuan's sharp dagger was thrusting toward his Achilles tendon. Even though Lin Siyuan was young, his combat experience was not inferior to Chi-Shuang's. Lin Siyuan attacked relentlessly, forcing Chi-Shuang to stop dodging. Normally, a dagger wouldn't be a concern, but Lin Siyuan's dagger wasn't an ordinary item. It was a Tier 7 origin weapon gifted by Lin Shi. Even without channeling origin power, it was enough to injure Chi-Shuang. Little brat, you're courting death. Being pushed back, Chi-Shuang roared, using his hand to strike toward Lin Siyuan. He just needed to catch Lin Siyuan. Even if he couldn't escape, he could make Lin Shi fearful of hurting the hostage. But how could Lin Siyuan be caught so easily? He nimbly dodged, simultaneously thrusting the dagger toward Chi-Shuang's chest. Seeing that he couldn't catch Lin Siyuan in a short time, Chi-Shuang abandoned the idea of capturing him. He pretended to block, then turned to flee. Even if he had to risk getting injured, he had to escape. Lin Siyuan's eyes lit up, his spirit roused. This time, his attack was even more fierce, showing no mercy. Don't even think about escaping. A dagger thrust toward Chi-Shuang's waist. But Chi-Shuang had anticipated it. He didn't dodge, taking the hit, using his muscles to clamp down on the dagger so it couldn't pierce deeply. At the same time, his large hand grabbed toward Lin Siyuan, who hadn't had time to pull his hand back. Little brat, you walked right into the net yourself. Lin Siyuan was caught, but his face showed no fear. Suddenly, a giant sword appeared above their heads, slashing down toward the arm Chi-Shuang was using to grab Lin Siyuan. If Chi-Shuang didn't pull his hand back, his arm would be chopped off. Chi-Shuang couldn't believe it. Lin Shi hadn't even arrived. yet his weapon was already here. With the giant sword's excessive speed, he couldn't pull his hand back in time. Half of his hand was chopped off. Chi-Shuang didn't dare delay. He didn't bother picking up his severed hand and immediately used the dark star to burrow underground. At the same time, countless giant swords suddenly appeared, sealing off all of Chi-Shuang's escape routes. If Lin Siyuan and Chi-Shuang hadn't been so close, Chi-Shuang would have been stabbed into a honeycomb. However, these giant swords ultimately failed. After using the dark star, Chi-Shuang vanished on the spot. Lin Siyuan's room was on the second floor, so Chi-Shuang reappeared on the first floor. But in just the blink of an eye, he vanished again. Woof woof woof. The Demon King quickly dug toward the spot where Chi-Shuang had just disappeared. Burrowing. Lin Shi didn't expect Chi-Shuang to have the ability to burrow underground. Moreover, Chi-Shuang must also have the ability to conceal his spiritual perception. No wonder he didn't detect Chi-Shuang. Lin Shi thought for a moment. He reached out his hand. The leopard and other beasts appeared. He delicately sensed the changes underground. Previously, he didn't detect Chi-Shuang because he didn't know he could conceal his spiritual power and burrow underground. But now it was different. Knowing this, even if Chi-Shuang burrowed and moved underground, it would still cause slight changes in the soil layers. Just by observing those changes, he could find him. That spot. Dig down. Lin Shi pointed to a spot a few hundred meters away. All the beasts acted together, digging down frantically. The Demon King didn't care about its freshly washed fur, digging very enthusiastically. Lin Shi frowned. He felt Chi-Shuang change positions again. Dig here. All the beasts dug a circle around the area, 1,000 meters in diameter. Lin Shi, what happened? Just a moment ago, the two of them were bathing the Demon King. Suddenly seeing Lin Shi and the Demon King rushing toward Lin Siyuan. Someone intruded. Almost kidnapped Siyuan, Lin Shi said. Chi-Shuang's eyes widened. Who could intrude into the base right under Lin Shi's nose? Someone from the Sanlian continent. Underground, Chi-Shuang suppressed the excruciating pain from his severed hand, burrowing into the ground to escape. But Lin Shi wasn't slow either. He controlled the pack of origin beasts and used tens of thousands of giant swords to dig up the earth simultaneously, quickly blocking all of Chi-Shuang's escape routes. Get the hell out here. Otherwise, I'll kill you. Lin Shi's voice echoed from underground, reaching Chi-Shuang's ears. The origin power in Chi-Shuang's body hadn't fully recovered yet. If he hid any longer, he would suffocate to death. More importantly, he didn't have much origin power left in his body. Seeing no way out, Chi-Shuang had to emerge. Seeing Chi-Shuang emerge, the beast pack immediately surrounded him. The commotion Lin Shi caused was too big. Not only was the inner courtyard dug up, but the living area of the ordinary people in the Lin family was also dug full of holes. Many people didn't understand what was happening, but seeing the patriarch's serious expression, everyone knew something major had occurred. When they saw Chi-Shuang emerge from underground, yet there wasn't a single hole on the ground, many people thought their eyes were playing tricks on them. A person who had just showered with Chi-Shuang blurted out, "Isn't that the guy I just showered with? Why did he run into the inner courtyard? This guy looks unfamiliar. Do you guys know him? Could a spy have sneaked into the base?" Many people took a deep breath, especially those who were just in the shower area. When Chi-Shuang asked about Lin Shi's weaknesses and listed a few relatives who might be his weak points, everyone felt a chill down their spine. They looked at each other in bewilderment. Wasn't Lin Shi standing right near Lin Siyuan's place? Could it be? A few of them felt like they were about to cause a massive disaster. Chi-Shuang realized he had fallen into a trap, but he still clung to a final sliver of hope. Lin Shi said, "I came to retrieve Shui Yu's item, not for revenge. I only intended to grab that kid just now to use as a bargaining chip against you all. Can you return that item to me? That pair is very important to me." Lin Siyuan stood behind Lin Shi, glaring angrily at Chi-Shuang. This bastard tried to grab him earlier. Was he picking on him just because he was small? Lin Shi looked at Chi-Shuang and said slowly, "You mean those earrings? I can give them back to you, but you have to answer a few of my questions first." Chi-Shuang's joy was evident on his face. He figured Lin Shi wouldn't go back on his word in front of so many people, so he quickly said, "Ask away." "That item and your ability to conceal your presence. They're both abilities of the vessel you're carrying, right?" Chi-Shuang's pupils shrank, but quickly, a glint of light flashed in his eyes. Lin Shi was the owner of the very first vessel created on the Sanlian continent, so it was normal for him to know about the existence of vessels. Therefore, he admitted Lin Shi was right. Shui Yu's item is a low-tier vessel. Then what tier is the vessel on you? Mid-tier? High-tier? Chi-Shuang looked at Lin Shi in astonishment. You even know about this? What did Shui Yu tell you? You just need to answer me. It's mid-tier. What tier is the treasure basin? You don't know? Chi-Shuang was a bit surprised, but thinking about how the treasure basin was a first-generation vessel, many of its functions and data might be incomplete, so he wasn't too shocked. He was about to answer when suddenly, a warning popped up on the Dark Star interface. Looking at the glaring red text on the interface, Chi-Shuang immediately didn't dare to answer. Seeing Chi-Shuang fall silent, his face showing a terrified expression as if he'd seen a ghost, Lin Shi knew he wouldn't get anything out of him. If you won't answer, then I can only invite you to die. Wait, I can join you. I'm a stage 7 evolver. I'm willing to serve you with all my heart. Chi-Shuang tried to stall for time, but Lin Shi already knew what he was up to. Chi-Shuang must have been doing something with his vessel underground earlier. Countless giant swords materialized around Chi-Shuang, piercing him into a giant hedgehog. The horrifying scene made everyone present gasp in shock. A stage 7 evolver, dead just like that? The patriarch was truly terrifying. Chi-Shuang didn't die immediately. He stared wide-eyed at the Dark Star interface, watching the consciousness transfer countdown hit 0, and sighed in his heart. But after holding on for 2 seconds, Dark Star still couldn't detach his consciousness. How could this be? Chi-Shuang muttered in despair. Lin Shi didn't give Chi-Shuang any time to linger on his last breath. He used his powerful spiritual energy to invade Chi-Shuang's brain, crushing his consciousness, and then used telekinesis to pull the bracelet from Chi-Shuang's wrist into his own hand. Just like Shui Yu's symbiote, this thing couldn't be sensed with spiritual energy either. Chi-Shuang's final gaze was filled with disbelief and despair. His head slumped. The so-called failed mission allows return to the Sanlian continent was nothing but a lie to get them to risk their lives. Lin Shi stored Chi-Shuang's corpse and the swords into his spatial dimension, letting the origin beasts fill the cold pit. Just as he was about to comfort Lin Siyuan, the Lin family members rushed in from outside and fell to their knees with a thud in front of Lin Shi. We accept our punishment. It was the same people who had been talking to Chi-Shuang while bathing earlier. Lin Shi didn't expect them to have this much free time. Get up. This time, your punishment is to repair the damages caused today. Don't let it happen again. Thank you, Patriarch. They had thought they would be severely punished. They were overjoyed. Lin Rongshuan, Chi-Shuang, and the others had heard the commotion and rushed over. Seeing Lin Shi dealing with Chi-Shuang, they hadn't approached. Now that everything seemed settled, they quickly walked over and asked, "How is it? Is anyone hurt?" Lin Siyuan spun around to show he was fine. Lin Shi, of course, was also fine. Lin Shi explained the situation and dismissed everyone, then took the bracelet back to his room. When he first held the Dark Star, Lin Shi received a prompt from the treasure basin. Detected that the host has obtained a mid-tier vessel. Would you like to use it to upgrade the treasure basin? Yes/no. Note: after upgrading, the treasure basin can acquire one of the vessel's abilities as a new function. It seemed like a step-by-step guide. Lin Shi chuckled. So this isn't restoring space, but adding a new function? Trying to tempt me this way? Lin Shi laughed out loud. He was now absolutely certain. The treasure basin definitely had a consciousness, but this consciousness was ignoring him. If you want to talk to me, I'll give you this vessel. If not, I'll just have to give it to someone else. The treasure basin still didn't react. Lin Shi started to get annoyed. Just as his patience was running out, a line of text suddenly appeared on the treasure basin's interface. Why must you talk to me? I am just a tool. Seeing this message, Lin Shi was delighted. After thinking for a moment, he said, If you're a tool, why do you keep clinging to me? You could be someone else's tool. After a long while, the treasure basin's interface lit up again, slowly displaying a line of text. I chose you. Until you die, I will not consider other options. Reading this, Lin Shi narrowed his eyes, seemingly realizing something. Everything I say and do, you can see and hear it all. The treasure basin's interface immediately replied, I am your tool. Naturally, I am one with you. So the treasure basin has always had a consciousness. Then why did you pretend not to have one before? Lin Shi asked coldly. I was afraid you would be wary of me. I also didn't want to interfere with your affairs. Haven't you always considered me a tool? Isn't it better to just keep treating me as one? True, a conscious treasure basin would only make Lin Shi more guarded. Then why do you have a consciousness? This time, the treasure basin remained silent for a long time, not answering immediately. After a while of waiting, new text appeared on the interface. Actually, I am the creator of the treasure basin, and also its inventor. Although I am not human, Lin Shi was slightly stunned, but also on guard. I believe you. How did your consciousness end up inside the treasure basin? It's a long story. Simply put, it was a minor accident. After creating this thing, I wanted to test its abilities. As a result, it sucked my consciousness in. To put it even more simply, perhaps this thing needed a soul to complete the final step after being created. So, due to my own operation, I became the artifact spirit of the treasure basin. The people who found me in the treasure basin thought I died of exhaustion after creating it, so they buried my body, took the usage notes I left behind, and sent it into this world. You know the rest. This time, Lin Shi was truly shocked. How was the treasure basin created? It's very complicated. Even if I told you, you wouldn't understand. The technology on this planet and the Sanlian continent are completely different. Simply put, the treasure basin displayed a long paragraph of text. Lin Shi indeed didn't understand. He had to change the subject. Then what kind of vessel are you? If we go by tiers, I should be a super tier vessel. The bracelet in your hand was likely copied from the data I left behind. It's just a pity that without me, they ultimately couldn't replicate any vessel that could compare to the treasure basin. Lin Shi glanced at the bracelet in his hand. In terms of functions, the treasure basin was indeed vastly superior. It could control time, space, and even replicate things. However, the abilities to burrow underground and conceal one's aura could only be used under special conditions. Lin Shi continued to ask about the things he cared about. What kind of world is the Sanlian continent? I haven't been back in a long time, so my memory is a bit fuzzy. In short, it's not a beautiful world. The environment is quite similar to the current blue planet, full of dangers. Humans live very difficult lives. If you are a vessel that contains consciousness, when I reach stage 9, will someone else replace me? No. With me here, no one can successfully transfer their consciousness. I can directly destroy that consciousness. Lin Shi didn't completely trust this. He said coldly, how do I know you're not lying to me? Guiding me to stage 9, only to let someone else replace me. Then, that person will rule this world and serve the Sanlian continent. I am currently just a mindless object. What benefit is there for me to help someone else rule the world? I was hidden away for tens of thousands of years. How do you think you found me? Why were you reborn? Do you think your first rebirth had something to do with me? Lin Shi frowned. I know I was reborn. Could it be that it wasn't because of the treasure basin? The treasure basin doesn't have that function. You've used heaven and earth reversal before, haven't you? It's because the will of the blue planet chose you. The will of the blue planet. Until now, most people thought the blue planet was just an ordinary planet where various creatures existed. Lin Shi had never thought it had its own will. That's right. The blue planet itself possesses consciousness. You can also understand it as the power of nature. Seeming to see through the doubt in Lin Shi's heart, the treasure basin continued to explain. The reproduction and extinction of species are all subject to the intervention of the blue planet's consciousness. This intervention can be very subtle and indirect, or very obvious and direct. For example, some species gradually go extinct due to environmental changes or other factors, while new species are born according to the times. These seemingly random phenomena actually all contain the influence of the blue planet's will. How do you know so much? Lin Shi asked. During the tens of thousands of years I was hidden, I have always observed the changes on this planet. Lin Shi grew increasingly amazed. It turned out the world they lived in was much more complex than he had imagined. But if the blue planet had its own will, why did it choose him? Did he have some special mission or ability? Countless questions popped into his head. Lin Shi asked, why did the will of the blue planet choose me? You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask? The treasure basin's interface displayed a counter question. Lin Shi was speechless. But I do have a guess. What is it? The blue planet wants to permanently close the parallel spatial tunnel between the Sanlian continent and the blue planet. Lin Shi frowned. How could I possibly do that? You can't do it alone, but what if you add me? You? You can destroy the parallel spatial tunnel. No, I can take you to the Sanlian continent. You can take me to the Sanlian continent. In his shock, Lin Shi couldn't help but repeat the words displayed on the treasure basin's interface. Just transferring your consciousness. Your body can't go. Moreover, the vessel in your hand must be absorbed by me. The treasure basin immediately targeted the vessel in Lin Shi's hand. Take it, Lin Shi replied. The treasure basin had already answered many of his questions. He might as well give it to it. As soon as he finished speaking, the vessel bracelet was immediately enveloped in a streak of golden light, flying straight toward the center of his brow. Lin Shi tried to suppress his instinct to knock it away, allowing the vessel to disappear between his eyebrows. The entire process was exactly the same as when the treasure basin first merged into his body. Now, choose one ability to keep. This vessel is called Dark Star. It has 3 abilities: Origin Energy Absorption, Wide Range, Aura Concealment, and Earth Burrowing. After the conversation with Lin Shi, the treasure basin's display interface also became more human-like, no longer as rigid as before. Lin Shi thought for a moment and asked, "Can I keep 2? No. Do Aura Concealment and Earth Burrowing have any side effects or harms? Both abilities consume the host's origin energy. Aura Concealment consumes less, while Earth Burrowing consumes more. The level of consumption is directly proportional to the depth, volume, and duration of the burrowing. Aura Concealment can hide you from all spiritual energy and telekinetic sensing, as well as various biological radar scans. Earth Burrowing allows you to tunnel underground without altering the geological structure." The treasure basin explained the 2 abilities in detail. Lin Shi confirmed. "Then I choose Aura Concealment." Actually, neither ability was of much use to Lin Shi at the moment. Earth Burrowing seemed more practical, but the side effects were too obvious. After burrowing, as long as someone used spiritual energy to scan underground, he would be discovered. Previously, Chi-Shuang wasn't detected at first because he combined Earth Burrowing with Aura Concealment. Earth Burrowing alone was truly useless. As for Aura Concealment, in certain situations, it might play a crucial role. Alright, the treasure basin needs to upgrade. Don't use it for the next few days. After transmitting this text, the treasure basin fell into a state of silence. Lin Shi tested it out. Sure enough, the treasure basin's space couldn't store items, but transferring items from the vacuum space to the living space was still possible. The treasure basin was upgrading, while Lin Shi was lost in thought. According to the treasure basin, it could help Lin Shi transfer his consciousness to the Sanlian continent. This process was no different from people from the Sanlian continent replacing the consciousness of humans on the blue planet. The problem was, Lin Shi couldn't find any reason why he had to go to the Sanlian continent. Based on the available information, the Sanlian continent was fraught with unpredictable dangers and was not safe at all. Furthermore, if he went there, he would have to be extremely careful to hide his true identity. Worse yet, the spatial tunnel could be destroyed, meaning Lin Shi's consciousness might be trapped there forever, never able to return to his old world. Even if this represented the expectations of the blue planet's will, he still felt he didn't have enough reasonable and justifiable motivation to risk such a dangerous endeavor. In short, whether it was him or any other race living on the blue planet, they were all invasive species to the blue planet. Moreover, how trustworthy was a conscious entity from the Sanlian continent? After careful consideration, Lin Shi had a clear answer on whether to proceed to the Sanlian continent. The Sanlian continent was full of unpredictable dangers. A slight misstep could plunge him into a desperate situation. Such a massive risk absolutely could not be taken lightly. Lin Shi decided to dismiss this thought and stop thinking about the Sanlian continent. Instead, he focused on the immediate problem: how to get the treasure basin out of his body. Because just as the conscious entity inside the treasure basin had said, the existence of a conscious entity within the treasure basin would only make him more guarded. If it were a naturally formed conscious entity, it would be somewhat acceptable. But this was a conscious entity that used to be an extremely brilliant scientist. This made Lin Shi even more vigilant. Lin Shi wondered how to convince the treasure basin to leave him. A night passed. The next morning, Chi-Shuang's trusted aide came to report, saying that the leader of the official base, Sia Chan, had come to visit the Lin family base. Lin Shi tidied up briefly and went to the reception hall. Chi-Shuang and Sia Chan were chatting quite happily. Leader Sia is truly young and promising, and you have such a handsome and elegant appearance too. Vice Patriarch Chi is too kind. If it weren't for my status as the leader of the official base, in front of Vice Patriarch Chi, I would just be an ordinary person. Leader Sia is too modest. When Lin Shi arrived, the two were still exchanging pleasantries, a scene of mutual flattery. Seeing Lin Shi arrive, the two stopped and shifted the topic to him. Sia Chan stood up and said, Patriarch Lin is here. Lin Shi nodded at Sia Chan. Leader Sia, what brings you here? Sia Chan was now used to Lin Shi's straightforwardness and getting straight to the point. I wanted to ask, how does Patriarch Lin plan to deal with the captured survivors from yesterday? Lin Shi remembered that yesterday, there were many defectors from the dynasty base who were later captured by the official base's people. The official base originally intended to come and assist, but Lin Shi, without even needing to lift a finger, had cleanly dealt with the million-strong army. Those people were basically all evolvers, still a considerable force. Even though Lin Shi didn't plan to take them in, the officials had other ideas. I won't accept those people. If Leader Xiao wants them, just give me half a year's output of gene medicine, and I'll hand them over to you. Lin Shi, in his position as the patriarch of the Lin family, naturally couldn't hand those people over to the officials for nothing. He had to fight for the Lin family's interests. Half a year is too much. The output of gene medicine is currently increasing. How about I provide the Lin family base with 10,000 gene medicine pills over half a year in exchange? How does that sound? Sia Chan probed. 20,000 pills. No less. Lin Shi said. Sia Chan thought for a moment and said, 20,000 pills it is. After the deal was struck, Lin Shi left the reception hall. Sia Chan and Chi-Shuang exchanged a few more pleasantries before Sia Chan took his leave. Over the following month, everything proceeded normally. The treasure basin took 3 days to complete its upgrade, adding the aura concealment ability to its interface. Lin Shi tested it out. With his current origin energy reserves, he could keep it active for about a day. For him, the consumption was negligible. But for a Stage 2 evolver, even an ordinary Stage 2 evolver could only keep it active for a minute or two. This time, the nations were much better prepared. Therefore, the number of surviving nations was still quite high. During this month, several nations contacted the Xia country government, seeking humanitarian aid. The Xia country government did not refuse. They dispatched icebreakers to rescue several fishing vessels, resolving the urgent crises of those nations. Currently, most of the surviving nations in the world looked to Xia country as their guiding light. Among them, the Hiddenly family still controlled the Middle Eastern countries, the Chen family still controlled the South American countries, and the Wang family controlled the Yu country and several Pacific Island nations. As for the remaining nations, aside from the Lighthouse Nation which had destroyed itself and lost its president, most had submitted to Xia country. Everything was developing according to Lin Shi and the government's predictions. The prerequisite was that no more pillars of origin appeared. Lin Shi had asked the Treasure Basin's consciousness about this. According to the Treasure Basin, the pillar of origin and the Treasure Basin would interfere with each other. Furthermore, 2 pillars of origin would sense each other. If both were stored in the spatial dimension at the same time, the consequences would be unpredictable. Therefore, the best approach was still to leave 1 pillar of origin outside, guarded by a strong military presence. But then, one night, on the island where the pillar of origin was guarded by soldiers and Lin family members, a dark shadow sneaked onto the island. The shadow stood tall, its physique much larger than an ordinary person's. It stood at the edge of the island, slightly opening its mouth. An inaudible wave emanated from its mouth, spreading across the island. Immediately, a man outside the island suddenly woke up. He sat up, wearing no clothes, only a thin undershirt, and quietly stepped out of the dormitory. Not long after, the man arrived in front of the dark shadow on the island. The shadow placed its hand on the man's head for a moment, seemingly transmitting something. A few minutes later, the man returned to the dormitory the same way he came. This time, the sound of the door closing woke up a roommate. "Jinwen, what are you doing?" The man said, Just went to the bathroom. Go to sleep quickly. We have patrol duty tomorrow morning. I know. At this time, the center of the island was strictly locked down. Soldiers and Lin family members worked in shifts. They patrolled day and night in rotation. Aside from the Lin family members and soldiers who had been guarding here since before the apocalypse, no one was allowed to step foot into the center of the island. At the same time, those guarding the Pillar of Origin in the center of the island were not allowed to leave the island either. They were all fitted with special tracking devices. If they left the island, an alarm would trigger. All supplies were transported to the outside of the island within designated times. Only after thorough inspection were they brought onto the island. This level of defense was originally sufficient. But sometimes, the strongest defense systems often collapse from within. Lin Sure only thought that humans might retain memories of their past lives during the heaven and earth reversal, but he never expected that origin beasts could also retain their memories. The man named Jinwen lay on his bed and quickly fell asleep. Early the next morning, while it was still pitch black, Jinwen and the other soldiers changed into their uniforms and headed toward the core area guarding the Pillar of Origin. They began their daily patrol. When he approached a drainage pipe a few kilometers away from the Pillar of Origin, Jinwen glanced around, suddenly opened the iron grate of the drain, and quickly slipped inside. Jinwen moved with purpose, his position going deeper and deeper underground. After a long while, a pre-dug tunnel suddenly appeared before his eyes. The tunnel was only wide enough for one person to crawl through. Jinwen skillfully took off his uniform to avoid getting it dirty, then grabbed a small knife and crawled deep into the tunnel. Not long after, Jinwen crawled to the end of the tunnel. Using the small knife, he carefully yet quickly dug at the dirt, stroke by stroke. Hours passed. Jinwen's head was covered in sweat. Soon, with a clink, the small knife struck something that felt like a rock. Jinwen continued to dig a few more times, expanding the area, and quickly realized he had dug into a cylindrical stone block. He reached out to touch it. A look of fanatical joy appeared on Jinwen's face. Immediately, without hesitation, he used the knife to slice his hand open and pressed his bleeding hand against the outer surface of the stone block. Not long after he did this, the entire island suddenly shook violently. Far away in Sia country, Lin Sure suddenly received a prompt from deep within his mind. The human race has taken the lead in opening the Pillar of Origin. In this battle for survival, the two sides are humans and origin beasts. The battle for survival between the two races officially begins. Please infuse origin energy and life force into the Pillar of Origin. The race that lights up 100 light nodes first will win. If, after 600 natural days, neither race has lit up 100 light nodes, the race with the most lit nodes will win. The winning race will be kept in the evolutionary ranks. The losing race will have all entities tier 3 and above eliminated. Killing is prohibited in the Pillar of Origin area. Abilities, spiritual power, and other special powers cannot be used in the Pillar of Origin area. Location of the Pillar of Origin. The prompt was exactly the same as the one that appeared last time. But the difference was that this time, the countdown had begun, and it was humanity that activated the Pillar of Origin first. When the prompt echoed in Lin Sure's mind, he immediately realized that a massive incident must have occurred at the Pillar of Origin. At the same time, intense killing intent surged around him. The person who opened the Pillar of Origin was definitely someone who knew about it. And for someone to dare open the Pillar of Origin knowing full well it couldn't be controlled. This clearly showed a complete disregard for his survival and that of humanity. The one who opened the Pillar of Origin and the mastermind behind it deserved to be hacked to pieces. What happened? Xiaoa immediately ran over, being the first to arrive at Lin Sure's room. Next were Lin Mingjin and Lin Rongshuan, who had been playing chess downstairs. What's going on? We set up the strictest defense system on that island. How is the Pillar of Origin still opened? Lin Mingjin and Xiaoa hadn't experienced the previous battle for survival, so they didn't know it would be like this when it opened. They were truly shocked. Qi-Yun hurriedly ran over. Eldest brother, how did this happen? Is there a traitor among us? Chi-Shuang and Lin Siyuan also rushed over. Seeing everyone gathered, Lin Sure said, Uncle, gather the clan members first and tell them the truth about the battle for survival. Qi-Yun, Chi-Shuang, You two take Xiaoa and half of the origin beasts to the Pillar of Origin Island. Forbid anyone from taking a single step closer to the Pillar of Origin. I will follow shortly. Fathers, contact the other 3 major families, inform them, and calm them down. I'm going to the government base. What about you, brother? Lin Siyuan asked Lin Shi, seeing everyone else assigned tasks. You're coming with me to the government base. Right when Lin Shi received the news that the Pillar of Origin had opened, the news about the Pillar of Origin suddenly appeared in everyone's minds. The news spread like a ticking time bomb, stirring up violent waves in everyone's hearts and igniting unprecedented fear. Compared to his previous life, the number of survivors after the apocalypse in this life was astonishingly high, 100 times more than before. That massive disparity in numbers led to a surge in fear and chaos, 100 times worse than the previous apocalypse. In an instant, countless people in various bases wailed and ran around in panic, hastily asking guards or anyone they bumped into to confirm the news. But when they realized everyone around them had received the same message, the fear in their hearts was magnified infinitely. The crowds fell into complete chaos. Soon after, large-scale riots by survivors broke out one after another in bases across various countries. The Xia country government base fared no better. Aside from a small number of high-ranking Xia country leaders who understood the situation, the rest, from soldiers to high-ranking officers, were completely unaware of the battle for survival. The Xia country government base was currently the most densely populated gathering place for survivors globally. The massive number of survivors gathered here caused unimaginable chaos. Facing an unprecedented challenge, the top leaders of the base were burning with anxiety. In this critical situation, Sia Chan, Lin Tianrui, and the core leaders of the base quickly took action, gathering in the conference room. Sia Chan sternly gripped the microphone, his voice steady yet firm, echoing throughout the base via the PA system. I am base leader Sia Chan. Everyone, listen to me. The news you heard about the battle for survival is fake. Someone will clearly explain this conspiracy. For now, please remain calm. Stay in your rooms and do not go out without permission. Sia Chan didn't mind repeating it multiple times to calm everyone down, but the footage from the surveillance monitors in the conference room was still deeply concerning. A conspiracy? Do you take us for 3-year-olds? The message just now appeared in our heads. It wasn't someone telling us. Yet you people, sitting high and mighty on the upper levels of this base, are putting on airs talking to us. Who's deceiving us? I think you're the masterminds. No wonder you knew the apocalypse was coming and still set up these so-called survival bases. You just wanted to lock us in the base and use us to feed whatever that Pillar of Origin is, right? I'd rather die than let you get your way. Boo-hoo. The apocalypse is here, and now a battle for survival? Why is it so hard for us ordinary people to just live? Countless cries of terror, fear, and fury echoed through every floor and every room in the base. Those voices, whether filled with despair or frantic screaming, caused even the soldiers responsible for maintaining order in the base to waver, let alone the ordinary civilians. Originally, every room in the base was equipped with special devices. They could quickly lock the doors in emergencies, confining people to ensure order during dangerous moments. However, the sudden activation of the Pillar of Origin caught everyone off guard. At this time, most people were not in their rooms. They might be in other rooms, in the hallways, or in other areas of the base. Even though the base had activated its emergency protocols, it still couldn't stop the spread of chaos and the out-of-control emotions of the masses. The crowd began to riot, running around in panic, looking for a safe haven from this sudden disaster. The situation grew increasingly chaotic, and order completely collapsed. Seeing that his words were ineffective, Sia Chan was still trying to figure out how to quell the crowd. He saw that the crowd had already started scuffling with the soldiers to snatch their weapons, and some were even fighting the soldiers responsible for maintaining order. Lin Tianrui snatched the microphone from Sia Chan's hand, his voice booming and full of authority. All soldiers, hear my command. Anyone who causes trouble, anyone who riots, anyone who snatches weapons, kill them on sight. This single command made the chaotic base suddenly fall dead silent. Many agitated people, whose heads were spinning from being shoved around, instantly sobered up. Anyone who continues to cause trouble will be killed by the soldiers without mercy. The situation began to take a turn for the better. Seeing this, everyone in the conference room breathed a sigh of relief. Many looked at Lin Tianrui with admiration. Xiaoa nodded secretly. No wonder Lin Tianrui was the leader of the government base in the previous apocalypse. This decisive ruthlessness was something Sia Chan, an office worker, lacked. It was a pity that Lin Tianrui's ambitions didn't lie in the position of leader. Sia Chan also realized he hadn't been decisive enough just now. He looked at Lin Tianrui with respect and said, "Thank you, Tianrui. Thank goodness you were here. Leader Xia is too kind. We're all doing this for the base. I'm just a rough man. I'm only of some use in situations like this." Lin Tianrui didn't claim credit and returned to his seat. The biggest problem in the base hadn't been resolved yet, but the people in the conference room began to question them. "Leader Xia, Leader Lin, looking at your expressions, you don't seem surprised at all. Are you hiding something? What is the battle for survival? Why did you say it's a conspiracy? What exactly is that voice that appeared in all our heads? We are all founding elders of the nation. For something this big, why did you hide it from us?" Sia Chan, Xiaoa, Lin Honglong, and the others exchanged glances. Xiaoa stood up and said, "I had to hide this from everyone. Please listen to the truth about the battle for survival first." Xiaoa recounted what he knew from Lin Shi about the arrival of the apocalypse and the truth of the battle for survival. He summarized many details related to Lin Shi. When it came to the truth of the battle for survival, he also had to mention Lin Shi's abilities and the fact that Lin Shi had returned from the future. Therefore, Xiaoa concealed some information and didn't mention Lin Shi's name. But someone still noticed the omission. "Chief Xia, you said someone returned from the future to tell you the truth about the battle for survival. I want to ask, how could that person do that?" "That's right, Chief Xia. How can we be sure that person is telling the truth and didn't just make it up to trick us?" Sia Chan frowned. Wang Chao said angrily, "That person told us when the apocalypse would arrive so we could prepare in advance. That's enough to prove he's on our side. He has no reason to lie to us." But Wang Chao's words still failed to convince everyone. Mainly, Wang Chao couldn't satisfy the curiosity and ambition surging within them. "I disagree with Vice Leader Wang. We all know that anyone who lies understands the principle of 9 parts truth, 1 part lie. Perhaps he used the previous information to gain our trust and erase our suspicions, all to achieve some unspeakable secret. Why doesn't Chief Xia just tell us straight out who that person is?" "Exactly. If the other party is someone we all trust, only then will we believe what Chief Xia said about the battle for survival. After all, this parallel space-time stuff, and us humans not being natives of the blue planet, it's truly hard to believe." Lin Tianrui and a few others frowned. Lin Shi, Xiaoa saw Lin Shi. At this moment, everyone in the conference room finally noticed Lin Shi, who had entered the room at some unknown time. Earlier, everyone had been captivated by the footage on the surveillance system, and then focused on what Xiaoa was saying. Furthermore, Lin Shi had appeared completely silently. They hadn't noticed when Lin Shi had stood at the door of the conference room. "Please, continue. I just came to see if you needed any help." Lin Shi led Lin Siyuan into the conference room. Lin Shi looked at the people who had just been questioning and wanting to know his name. "I am the one who provided the information about the arrival of the apocalypse and the situation regarding the battle for survival. Haven't you all guessed it already? Given the relationship between the Lin family base and the government base, many high-ranking officials of the base, even if they didn't know Lin Shi was the informant, knew it was inextricably linked to the Lin family. They mainly wanted to confirm with Xiaoa if it was Lin Shi, and Lin Shi had admitted it directly. "I am the one who reversed space-time and returned to the past, telling Chief Xia about the things that will happen in the future. The opening of the Pillar of Origin and the battle for survival is a conspiracy. Are you all clear now?" Hearing Lin Shi's admission, a man in the conference room had a glint in his eyes. "I wonder what method Patriarch Lin used to reverse heaven and earth." Lin Shi pulled Lin Siyuan to Sia Chan's side. Sia Chan was slightly stunned. He trembled slightly, then stood up to give his seat to Lin Shi. Lin Shi sat down very naturally. Sia Chan and Lin Siyuan stood behind Lin Shi. This scene left the people in the conference room, aside from Xiaoa, Lin Honglong, Wang Chao, and Lin Tianrui, staring in shock with their mouths agape. You? Lin Shi interrupted the middle-aged man whose face was flushed red with anger. How I reversed heaven and earth, how I returned to the past, is my own private matter. I don't need to report it to you. You should know that the reason you can sit here and talk to me today is because of me. This seat. The position of leader isn't mine, not because I lack the ability, but because I don't want it. Understand, Lin Shi's words were indeed very arrogant, but Sia Chan, the base leader, obediently lowered his head without showing any anger. Xiaoa, Lin Tianrui, and the others didn't object either. Lin Shi glanced around. The people in the government base who knew about the existence of the Pillar of Origin were all present at this meeting. Xiaoa, Lin Honglong, Sia Chan, Lin Tianrui Wang Chao. Aside from Sia Chan, Lin Shi understood the situations of the other four perfectly. Looking at it now, Sia Chan didn't seem like the one who had opened the Pillar of Origin. Outside the government base, the three major hidden families, the Chen family, Li family, and Wang family, also knew about the Pillar of Origin, but at the time, Lin Shi had only mentioned its existence. He hadn't told them how to open it. Now that someone had opened the Pillar of Origin, it was very likely someone who remembered how to open it. Therefore, it didn't necessarily have to be the people in front of him. It could entirely be someone else. Hearing Lin Shi finish, the few people in the conference room who had intended to say something fell silent. It was just that their expressions were uglier than if they had eaten a fly. All right, everyone knows now. Then go about your business. I just came to take a look. Lin Shi waved his hand. Sia Chan nodded at Lin Shi and went to arrange the work in the base. The opening of the Pillar of Origin had caught them off guard. The situation in the base wouldn't easily calm down in the short term. The people in the conference room quickly left. In the end, only Lin Shi, Lin Siyuan, and Xiaoa remained. Xiaoa had his guards close the conference room door, then said with a grave expression, "Patriarch Lin coming here at this time. Surely it isn't just to take a look around?" Lin Shi gently patted the seat next to him. Lin Siyuan sat down beside him. "Chief Xia is indeed a smart man. You must have understood the purpose of my trip." Lin Shi frankly expressed his thoughts. Patriarch Lin suspects that the rule breaker who opened the Pillar of Origin is one of our people. Xiaoa's eyes were sharp as torches, directly stating Lin Shi's intention. Actually, from the moment he saw Lin Shi enter the conference room, he understood the reason the other party had rushed over. Guarding the Pillar of Origin is a heavy responsibility. Besides my people, it was your people who were mobilized to carry out the mission together. We originally agreed to choose trustworthy people to stand guard. Lin Shi tapped lightly on the table. The force was light, but it left several dents on the tabletop. Seeing this, Xiaoa's pupils shrank. He knew Lin Shi was angry. Xiaoa hurriedly said, "This matter requires a thorough investigation to uncover the truth. At the time, I also accepted your proposal, assigning your people to be in charge of security inside the Pillar of Origin, while I ordered my subordinates to handle the defense outside. If an abnormal situation occurred, the Lin family should have had a better opportunity." This was Xiaoa's insinuation. Lin Shi understood his meaning, but the people guarding the Pillar of Origin were all Chi-Shuang's trusted aides. These people were all personally selected by Lin Shi after the severity of the situation had been clearly explained to them. Therefore, Lin Shi was even more confident. "I haven't jumped to conclusions. Don't be hasty, Chief Xia," Lin Shi said. He suspected the government's people, but he needed to wait for the investigation results from Chi-Shuang and Chi-Yun. "I'm just informing Chief Xia. If it's one of our people, I will make him regret ever being born into this world. But if it's one of your people, I hope Chief Xia will find him yourself and hand him over to me. Otherwise, if you wait for me to take action personally, I will also make him regret ever being born into this world," Lin Shi said with a forceful tone. "When that time comes, don't blame me for not giving the government any face. I understand. Rest assured, Patriarch Lin, I will investigate this strictly. I absolutely will not let the culprit off the hook." Xiaoa repeatedly assured Lin Shi. Lin Shi took Lin Siyuan and left. The conference room door opened again. Xiaoa sat motionless in his seat. His guards quickly checked on his condition. "Chief, are you all right?" Only then did Xiaoa realize his forehead was covered in cold sweat and his back was drenched. I'm fine. I'm a bit tired. I'm going back to rest for a while. Later, tell Tianrui to come to my room. Tell him old man Lin left something behind and ask him to come get it. Yes, Chief. On the way back, Lin Siyuan looked up at Lin Shi, his small face wrinkled with worry as he asked, Brother, what will happen now that the Pillar of Origin is open? Lin Shi looked at the fading sunset, staring straight ahead without blinking. Anything could happen, or nothing could happen. Didn't nothing happen in the previous apocalypse? Lin Siyuan didn't remember much about his past life. That was the result of careful guidance from Lin Shi and Lin Rongshuan. Lin Shi pursed his lips, not knowing what to say. In his previous life, they had sacrificed so many people and were about to light up all the light nodes on the Pillar of Origin. But the Origin beasts lit theirs up much faster than the humans. By the time humanity was about to sacrifice all its adults and nearly all the lucky survivors in a desperate last stand, Lin Shi couldn't bear the despair and decisively used all his strength to destroy the Pillar of Origin. As a result, the treasure basin automatically initiated the heaven and earth reversal. What happened after the Pillar of Origin was destroyed? Lin Shi didn't even need to guess. It would definitely be an apocalyptic disaster. The other surviving creatures on the island where the Pillar of Origin was located definitely wouldn't meet a good end. Fortunately, the treasure basin had initiated the heaven and earth reversal at that time, bringing Lin Shi back to the starting point. Lin Shi didn't know what would await humanity this time if they didn't light up the subsequent light nodes. To be honest, Lin Shi had already guessed that the treasure basin had its own consciousness and the ability to autonomously initiate the heaven and earth reversal. Did this mean the treasure basin could autonomously absorb origin energy? He had previously absorbed origin energy from other materials or origin beasts. Could the treasure basin have absorbed a portion of it? This wasn't impossible. No, it was highly likely. Lin Shi suddenly thought of something. He absorbed origin energy from high-tier origin beasts, but if he ate them directly, he could increase his spiritual energy. So did this mean the treasure basin could absorb spiritual energy? And the consciousness inside the treasure basin had always been growing stronger? One thing was certain. The conscious entity inside the treasure basin didn't want Lin Shi to die. Little Lin Siyuan looked at Lin Shi frowning in deep thought for a long time without answering, and didn't dare to ask further. The two returned to the Lin family base. By this time, the Lin family base had stabilized thanks to the support of Chi-Shuang and the others. Everyone accepted Lin Shi's explanation that he had returned from the future and understood the battle for survival. Compared to the government base, the people of the Lin family base trusted Lin Shi even more. They didn't even need Lin Shi to speak for himself. Most of them believed the words of Chi-Shuang and the others. No wonder the young patriarch is so powerful. He really is a man from the future here to save the world. Returning to the Lin family base, Lin Shi felt his mind ease up a lot. At the same time, the worry in his heart grew even larger. Chi-Shuang and Chi-Yun, riding Xiaoa and the other mounts, took hours to reach the island where the Pillar of Origin was located. This time, the way the Pillar of Origin appeared was exactly the same as last time. It slowly rose from underground, then shed its hard outer rock shell, gradually revealing the smooth appearance from his past life's memories. As soon as the Pillar of Origin broke through the ground, the thick ice surrounding the island instantly shattered. In this apocalypse, fortunately, there were still some native residents surviving on the island. But faced with this sudden incident and violent tremor, many people were injured. The carefully built snow houses and cleared structures also collapsed and were damaged. When Chi-Shuang led Xiaoa and the others quickly to the scene, the islanders were gradually calming down from their extreme terror. They stared wide-eyed in astonishment at these uninvited guests, not knowing what to do. Cries and calls for help rang out chaotically. The whole island was in an uproar. The situation of the soldiers and Lin family members in the center of the island was no better. They all stood dumbfounded, gathered around the Pillar of Origin. At the same time, two light nodes had already appeared on the Pillar of Origin. The first light node lit up because the Pillar of Origin had opened. The second light node was lit by some soldiers of unknown origin and some survivors who were thought to be participating in the real battle for survival. Because the incident happened so suddenly, the Lin family members guarding the Pillar of Origin didn't expect it to appear like this and simply couldn't react in time. Quite a few people had touched the Pillar of Origin. As soon as Chi-Shuang and Chi-Yun arrived on the island, they had the Origin Beast Legion take over the entire center of the island. Chi-Yun gathered everyone and interrogated them one by one. Chi-Shuang inspected the situation around the Pillar of Origin and searched for the person who had opened it. Finally, Chi-Shuang found the drainage pipe opening where the shriveled corpse of that soldier was discovered. By the time Lin Shi received the news Chi-Shuang sent via walkie-talkie, it was already the next day. Along with the message were photos of the soldier who had opened the Pillar of Origin and the long tunnel system they had dug. Lin Shi sent someone to deliver the photos and the results Chi-Shuang had gathered to the government base, handing them over to Xiaoa. Knowing Xiaoa well, he trusted the man would know how to handle this information. 2 days passed in a flash. The situation in the government base gradually stabilized. Most of the citizens had been calmed down, but there were still some who were anxious, half believing and half doubting the truth behind the Pillar of Origin and the explanation that Lin Shi came from the future to save everyone. However, there were also many who revered Lin Shi like a god. Just like in the previous apocalypse, Lin Shi's name once again echoed throughout the government base. The only difference was that compared to back then, more people knew about him now. Over the past 2 days, Lin Shi felt that the growth rate of his spiritual energy seemed much faster. Even though he wasn't actively absorbing origin energy, he always tried to make his spiritual energy grow. Spiritual energy was more important than origin energy and also harder to grow. It was the key for humans to unlock their genes to the highest level. Whenever he had free time, Lin Shi would meditate. For the past 2 days, because of the Pillar of Origin incident, aside from sleeping, he had barely meditated. Yet, the growth rate of his spiritual energy was faster than normal. This surprised Lin Shi a bit. Could spiritual energy grow on its own due to other factors? He hadn't done anything special these past 2 days. Lin Shi asked the treasure basin, besides meditation and experiencing intense mental fluctuations, is there any other way for spiritual energy to grow? Besides the 2 methods you mentioned, there is also the method of borrowing external power and tempering one's will to strengthen spiritual energy, but the growth rate will be slower. Lin Shi naturally knew this method. He didn't ask further about that issue, but shifted to a more important one. The Pillar of Origin has been opened. Can it be closed? Ever since discovering the Pillar of Origin had been opened yesterday, Lin Shi had wanted to ask the treasure basin this. In theory, if the consciousness inside the treasure basin was a scientist from the Sanlian continent 10,000 years ago, even if they weren't the creator of the Pillar of Origin, they must understand it well. Because according to the old Taoist priest, the treasure basin was created after the Pillar of Origin. But Lin Shi suddenly remembered that before initiating the heaven and earth reversal, the treasure basin had reminded him to kill as many origin beasts as possible. Now knowing the treasure basin had its own consciousness, assuming it already knew the truth about the Pillar of Origin. Knowing the Pillar of Origin was just a fabricated lie, why did it tell Lin Shi to kill origin beasts? This question weighed heavily on Lin Shi's heart like a massive boulder, causing him endless sleepless nights. It also made him worry about the future. But no matter how worried Lin Shi was, it couldn't change the treasure basin's cold answer. Cannot. Then if things continue like this, the origin beast's Pillar of Origin doesn't open, and the human's Pillar of Origin isn't activated, will humanity ultimately win? You should know that whether it's the Pillar of Origin, the treasure basin, or any other vessel, their existence is to harvest energy from the origin materials on the blue planet. The treasure basin's subtitles appeared before Lin Shi's eyes, cold and emotionless. If they cannot harvest origin materials, the humans of the Sanlian continent will definitely use other methods. And the Pillar of Origin bomb is placed at the headquarters of the Sanlian Continent Federation. Lin Shi frowned in deep thought. The treasure basin meant that if the Pillar of Origin didn't bring practical benefits to the people of the Sanlian continent, they would very likely resort to extreme measures, detonating the Pillar of Origin. Lin Shi's face turned pale. He asked in a low voice, if the Pillar of Origin is detonated, what will the destructive power be like? The treasure basin fell silent for a moment. Then, as if weighing its words, if this Pillar of Origin hasn't undergone any supplementary energy processing, meaning it hasn't been infused with origin energy and is detonated directly, its destructive power would probably be 100 times. Or even more, compared to your blue planet's 100 kiloton atomic bombs. The effective destruction radius is estimated to be between 30 and 60 kilometers, and the effective destruction area is estimated to be between 300 and 1,000 square kilometers. An explosion of this scale is enough to severely threaten the entire blue planet and could cause even more catastrophic consequences. However, because the specific data is still incomplete, it's currently difficult to calculate more accurately. At the same time, the most dangerous aspect of the Pillar of Origin is not its destructive power against the ground, but its spiritual energy damage to living beings. Inside this Pillar of Origin is a secret weapon meticulously researched and created by the Sanlian continent. This weapon specifically targets monsters with tough physiques but weak spiritual energy. When the explosion occurs, the spiritual shockwave released is extremely powerful. Its power can be compared to a Stage 6 powerhouse unleashing a full-force spiritual attack, capable of covering an area of over 1,000 square kilometers. Within this range, most living beings below Stage 6 will find it hard to escape disaster. If it were in a state similar to when you used the Heaven and Earth reversal before, fully charged with origin energy, then the simultaneous detonation of two pillars of origin would create a terrifying power, enough to wipe out all living beings on the blue planet, and could even cause 1/3 of the blue planet's surface area to be destroyed. The treasure basin recounted the entire situation Lin Shi wanted to know. Lin Shi stared intently at the treasure basin's interface, remaining silent, seemingly pondering something. After a long while, he slowly spoke up. So you're saying, if it's not supplemented with energy, the destructive power of the Pillar of Origin is still within a controllable range. He said that, but it was only a relative comparison. One must know, even in a desolate wasteland, such a powerful explosion could still cause abnormal movements in the Earth's crust, leading to severe global consequences, including but not limited to earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and a series of other disasters. Lin Shi frowned, his expression growing even more grave. Immediately after, as if suddenly remembering something, he hurriedly asked, the Pillar of Origin that was stored in that spatial dimension, is there still a risk of it being detonated? The Pillar of Origin has been stored. I have successfully completely severed the connection between it and the Sanlian continent. In fact, the central signal inside the Pillar of Origin and some functions of the treasure basin are experiencing mutual interference. Just as you saw before, Lin Shi had indeed seen the treasure basin suddenly become unstable last time, its spatial range shrinking by 1/3, which was why he hadn't stored any more Pillars of Origin. However, the treasure basin suddenly said, however what? If you can find a way for the treasure basin to absorb 2 more mid-tier vessels or 1 high-tier vessel, then perhaps the treasure basin will have enough energy to withstand the impact of taking in another Pillar of Origin. It can't do it right now? Lin Shi asked casually. With the treasure basin's current capabilities, if it tries to take in 2 Pillars of Origin at the same time, it will face immense danger. It is highly likely to cause both the treasure basin and the Pillars of Origin to fall into an extremely unstable state. It could even cause unpredictable disasters. If you can let the treasure basin absorb 2 more mid-tier vessels or 1 high-tier vessel, it can handle taking in another Pillar of Origin. With the treasure basin's current capabilities, if it takes in 2 Pillars of Origin at the same time, it's very dangerous. It is highly likely to cause both the treasure basin and the Pillars of Origin to fall into an extremely unstable state, even causing unpredictable disasters. Where am I supposed to find a mid-tier or high-tier vessel? Don't tell me you want me to go to the Sanlian continent for this, Lin Shi said warily. The treasure basin was rarely this straightforward today, but the more it acted like this, the less Lin Shi dared to let his guard down around it. No, the people of the Sanlian continent, after discovering the loss of signal from 1 Pillar of Origin and the successive deaths of 2 vessel owners, will very likely continue to send people over. When that time comes, you just need to snatch their vessels. Lin Shi frowned. The Sanlian continent still has vessels. The consciousness inside this treasure basin knew quite a lot. It seemed to know the situation on the blue planet, and also grasped some of the situation on the Sanlian continent. The treasure basin didn't know what Lin Shi was thinking and continued. You were right to give that low-tier vessel to Chi-Shuang. If you gave a low-tier vessel to a low-level cultivator and the other side transferred a conscious entity over, it would very likely replace the original owner's consciousness. It's fine if it's Chi-Shuang? Lin Shi asked. A stage 6 cultivator has spiritual energy that surpasses ordinary people, while a low-tier vessel can only transfer conscious entities below stage 4. Therefore, even if the other side transfers the strongest possible conscious entity, it cannot replace Chi-Shuang's consciousness. Stage 4? Conscious entities are also ranked by stages. Lin Shi was curious. He had received too much information from the treasure basin today. Before, the treasure basin hadn't said anything, but now it was telling Lin Shi everything like it was pouring its heart out. This feeling was like it was trying its hardest to gain Lin Shi's trust. Yes, the people of the Sanlian continent don't have strong physiques, but they temper their consciousness, which is spiritual energy. They divide spiritual energy into 9 stages based on intensity. So according to what you're saying, if it were your vessel, for the people of the Sanlian continent to transfer a conscious entity over to replace me, they would need at least a stage 8 conscious entity. Is that right? Lin Shi's eyes lit up. In theory, yes. But it's unknown whether the Sanlian continent is willing to sacrifice a conscious entity of stage 8 or above. When I created the treasure basin, the program was set so that only when the host reaches a stage 9 life form can the consciousness transfer be activated. Once the consciousness transfer begins, regardless of what stage your original consciousness is at, it will be sent to the Sanlian continent, replacing another body there. In other words, you would use stage 9 spiritual power to target a weak body of an ordinary person or another life form on the Sanlian continent. Furthermore, that would be a controlled body. If that situation occurs, the fate awaiting you is to be killed immediately after the transfer ends by all the humans of the Sanlian continent, who would be fully prepared. But if another consciousness replaces your current body, it will seize your power. With that ultimate power, it will control the blue planet, use the ability of unlocking stage 9 genes to extend its lifespan, and continuously transport the origin materials on the blue planet back to the Sanlian continent. Lin Shi had guessed this outcome countless times, but seeing it actually displayed on the treasure basin's interface still sent a chill down his spine. You people from the Sanlian continent really scheme deeply, Lin Shi said coldly. Human thoughts are always geared towards self-interest. Fundamentally, you are also a descendant of the humans from the Sanlian continent. You don't belong to this planet. So what? Taking the energy of this planet to develop our own world, what's wrong with that? Lin Shi almost laughed out loud at this sophistry. He didn't doubt his origins, just wasn't very angry. But I was born and raised on this planet. I am a person of the blue planet, not some Sanlian continent person. If you take the initiative to help the Sanlian Continent Federation gather origin materials, I can contact the Sanlian Continent Federation headquarters and fight for maximum benefits for you, including helping you become stronger or returning to the Sanlian continent to become a crucial figure revered by tens of thousands. As long as you want it, they will grant it. The treasure basin seemed to be guiding him step by step. Lin Shi sneered. Why should I work against the will of this planet for some illusory, non-existent world? I live very well here. I don't want to go to any Sanlian continent, nor do I want to be some ruler. I just want to live peacefully here, and that's enough. Very good. That is exactly why the blue planet chose you, and also why I chose you. What do you mean? The treasure basin mentioned the blue planet's will again. I told you before, this planet is a massive conscious entity. It controls natural changes and natural disasters to make this planet evolve in the most suitable direction. The parallel spatial tunnel between the Sanlian continent and this planet broke the inherent balance, causing the blue planet's conscious entity to intervene. You are the one chosen by the blue planet's will. There must be a reason it chose you. I just want you to know that I've said so much because I am on your side. I have lived on this planet for over 10,000 years, while I only lived on the Sanlian continent for a few decades. My consciousness already belongs to this planet. I cannot work for the people of the Sanlian continent. You don't need to be so guarded against me. Even if I did that, the blue planets wouldn't let the Sanlian continent's civilization develop and drain this planet's origin materials. Understand? Previously, the treasure basin had mentioned the blue planet's will. The blue planet chose me. The treasure basin also chose me. Maybe there is something special about me. Before obtaining the treasure basin, he was just an ordinary person. But on the blue planet, there were plenty of ordinary people like him. I get it. You want me to trust you. The treasure basin had beaten around the bush for so long, ultimately just wanting to say that. That's right. Only when you trust me can we unleash our maximum power. Lin Shi remained unfazed. Wanting me to trust you with just empty words isn't enough. You need to prove it with concrete actions. Wait until you absorb 2 more mid-tier vessels, or 1 high-tier vessel, and I will prove it to you. But how will I know when a new vessel is brought to the blue planet? Lin Shi needed to find a trustworthy person. After upgrading, I can sense a portion of the Sanlian continent's new type vessels. When a new vessel arrives on the blue planet, I will sense it and notify you. The conversation with the treasure basin ended. The Lin family had stabilized. As for the government base, although it seemed peaceful on the surface, in reality, undercurrents were surging and danger lurked. When Xiaoa learned from Lin Shi that the problem had once again appeared among his subordinates, his expression became extremely grave. This was an unprecedented look on his face. He understood clearly that if he didn't investigate this thoroughly, once Lin Shi took action, the consequences would be disastrous. When that time came, it would be hard for the two sides to cooperate amicably. On the very day Lin Shi arrived at the base, Xiaoa summoned Lin Tianrui for a secret meeting. The main topic was how to properly resolve the thorny issue of the Pillar of Origin. After careful consideration, Xiaoa decided to assign Lin Tianrui to secretly investigate whether there was a mole. After all, Lin Tianrui was not only trusted by Lin Shi, but he had also been the leader of the government base in the previous apocalypse. He had enough experience and ability to handle this task. At this moment, Xiaoa stared intently at the photo Lin Shi had sent. The corpse of the soldier in the photo made him feel a baffling sense of exhaustion. If he remembered correctly, this soldier who opened the Pillar of Origin was very close to Sia Chan before the apocalypse. Xiaoa couldn't help but feel a complex surge of emotions. Originally, Lin Shi had nominated Lin Tianrui to be the government leader, but due to his request, an election was held and Sia Chan was chosen. I hope it wasn't that kid Sia Chan. Xiaoa forwarded the information Lin Shi sent to Lin Tianrui. 3 days passed in a flash. Leader, I found out that the vice leader seems to be investigating the people around us. In the office, Pang Sheng, Sia Chan's bodyguard, walked in quickly and whispered in Sia Chan's ear. Sia Chan was designing a plan for breeding origin beasts, his face slightly scrunched up. Hearing this, he didn't look up and said, "It's fine. Just pretend you don't know. If necessary, you can cooperate a little." Leader, he's just a vice leader, yet he's investigating you, the current leader. He clearly has no respect for you. Pang Sheng was even more agitated than Sia Chan upon learning he was being investigated. Sia Chan remained indifferent. Such a big incident happened. Of course it has to be investigated. I am clean. I have nothing to fear from an investigation. Right now, there are rumors in the base that the person who died opening the Pillar of Origin was Jinwen. Jinwen used to be very close to you. I'm afraid they'll think you ordered this. Impossible. Tianrui knows that such a blatantly obvious frame-up couldn't possibly be my doing. Just cooperate with the investigation. But what if he deliberately tries to frame you? Pang Sheng asked agitatedly. He won't. If he wanted to frame me, he wouldn't have yielded the position of base leader to me in the first place. Sia Chan picked up a piece of dried meat from the table, took a bite, chewed slowly, and stared intently at the blueprint. Suddenly, he looked up and stared at Pang Sheng with a puzzled look. Pang Sheng, you're talking too much today. Pang Sheng lowered his voice. Leader, I'm worried about you. I'm fine. You can go. Sia Chan waved his hand and went back to his work. Yes. Pang Sheng left unwillingly. After Pang Sheng left, Sia Chan picked up his walkie-talkie and called Lin Tianrui. Investigate Pang Sheng a bit more. He's acting a bit strange today. On the other end of the line, Lin Tianrui replied. Lin Tianrui had received the news from Xiaoa. Even though the evidence pointed towards Sia Chan, he didn't believe Sia Chan did it. A discreet person like Sia Chan, even if he wanted to do it, wouldn't let someone close to him do it and draw suspicion. The dead soldier who opened the Pillar of Origin was named Jinwen. Before the apocalypse, He was very close to Sia Chan. Jin had few friends and not many social connections. He was an orphan and had been in the military for 10 years. He had a girlfriend working in the capital. Normally, besides a few comrades in arms, he was only close to Sia Chan. Over the past few days, Lin Tianrui had reviewed the base's entry and exit records since the apocalypse. From the base to the Pillar of Origin Island, even for a Stage 2 evolver, a round trip took more than half a month. Therefore, Lin Tianrui started investigating those who had registered to go out for more than half a month, or those who had borrowed the base's mounts to go out for more than 3 days. For the matching cases, Lin Tianrui immediately called them back for interrogation, but yielded no results. This gave Lin Tianrui quite a headache. He decided to secretly contact Sia Chan and ask him to provide a few suspicious individuals. The reason is that Lin Tianrui knew what happened in the base couldn't be hidden from Sia Chan, and Sia Chan was very smart. He decided to let Sia Chan clear the suspicion himself, and Sia Chan did a great job. He used the available information to find a few people Lin Tianrui wouldn't suspect. Sia Chan seemed to always be in the office researching the origin beast breeding plan, but in reality, he was also having a headache over this matter. Normally, Sia Chan definitely wouldn't suspect the person who was always absolutely loyal by his side, his old friend Pang Sheng. He also understood that Pang Sheng was worried about him, and at the same time, afraid that Lin Tianrui would fight for the leader's position. But now, Sia Chan had to be careful. After all, with Lin Shi's temper, the head of the Lin family, Sia Chan didn't dare to take risks. Pang Sheng left Sia Chan's office with a frowning, unwilling face. The leader is too nice, letting people bully him right to his face, and he's still this good-tempered. Returning to his post, Pang Sheng had no idea that there were hidden cameras in the dark watching his every move. He handed over his shift to Sia Chan's other guards as normally as ever, until he returned to his dorm. High-ranking guards like him all had their own private dorms. But today, before Pang Sheng arrived, his dorm had been rigged with multiple microcameras by Lin Tianrui's people. Extremely discreet. Completely unaware, Pang Sheng returned to his dorm, put away his weapons, took off his military uniform, changed into looser, more comfortable clothes, and began practicing martial arts. A moment later, there was a knock on the door. Pang Sheng stopped, sweating profusely. Wiping his sweat, he opened the door and saw a beautiful girl standing there. All of Pang Sheng's worries from the day vanished. The girl had her hands behind her back, playfully sticking her tongue out at him. She was as beautiful as a pure white snow lotus glowing softly in the night. Blockhead, practicing again? Hurry up. Seeing Lu Tianran, Pang Sheng stammered, Didn't I tell you not to keep practicing after work? What's wrong? Are you in a bad mood today? Lu Tianran stepped closer, wrinkling her nose and asking. It's nothing, just a little unhappy at work. Lu Tianran's eyes sparkled. You didn't get scolded for saying the wrong thing, did you? No, what could I have said wrong? I just wanted to remind the leader. Realizing he was speaking too loudly, Pang Sheng quickly lowered his voice. Anyway, I'm not wrong. All right, my dad invited you over for dinner. Let's go. Lu Tianran linked her arm with Pang Sheng's. Wait for me a bit. A moment later, after showering and changing clothes, Pang Sheng left with Lu Tianran. Lin Tianrui also received the news. Lu Tianran, is Lu Pang's daughter? Lin Tianrui wrote Lu Pang's name down on a piece of paper. Lu Pang was once Lin Tianrui's lifesaver. But after meeting Lin Shi, Lin Tianrui recalled some memories from his past life. Thinking of Lu Pang's death at Lin Shi's hands, he immediately transferred Lu Pang to his side, giving him an idle job with no real power. Lu Tianran brought Pang Sheng to Lu Pang's dorm. Lu Pang was currently a materials manager in one of the base's sectors. That sector had 3 managers, and Lu Pang was just one of them. Being a manager was an easy job with good perks. In this life, Lin Shi had nothing to do with Lu Pang. Lin Tianrui had confirmed that Lu Pang had no memories of the past. That was why he put Lu Pang in a place where he couldn't come into contact with Lin Shi. This was Lin Tianrui's compensation to Lu Pang for the regrets of his previous life. Little Sheng is here. Smiling, Lu Pang revealed a sly grin, his sharp eyes looking at Pang Sheng. Lu Pang told Pang Sheng to sit down. Pang Sheng noticed that there was another woman in Lu Pang's room today, about the same age as Lu Tianran. Seeing that woman, Lu Tianron's expression became a bit unnatural. Xiaoya, you're here too. What are you calling me Xiaoya for? That's no manners. You have to call me Andy. Xiaoya quickly approached Lu Tianran and scolded her. Lu Tianran angrily pulled Pang Sheng down to sit. Xiaoya continued to act overbearing. I'm talking privately with Ran. What's this, Auntie Xiao? Just call me Andy. Yeah, in my heart, you're number one. I'm staying by your side and your dad's side, just wanting to always take care of you. If it weren't for me, where would you find a good boyfriend like Pang Sheng? Lu Tianran pouted and finally stopped. Right at that moment, a knock came from the door. Xiaoya went to open it. Outside was another woman. If Lin Shi were here, he would definitely be shocked to find that the people who had directly or indirectly died by his hands in his previous life had gathered together again. The woman at the door was none other than Dai Xiaodai, the person who possessed the origin beast affinity talent in her past life, but in this life, was brought into the base and still hadn't discovered her talent, currently working as an origin beast caretaker. Not everyone retained all their memories from their past life. Ordinary people couldn't clearly remember what happened before the reversal of heaven and earth. Only those who had a lot of contact with Lin Shi, or someone like the Treasure Bowl, could recall a little bit of their past life. This was probably related to the characteristics of the Treasure Bowl. Among all humans, very few people who hadn't interacted with Lin Shi still retained memories of their past life. And Xiaoya was one of them. After recovering her memories, Xiaoya realized that Lin Shi was no longer her classmate like before. So Xiaoya knew that Lin Shi also had memories of his past life. Sure enough, the entire Xian nation had changed drastically. Because of Lin Shi, the whole country poured all its efforts into building bases, hoarding supplies, and military industry. Diplomacy and all other activities were almost paralyzed. All humanity was arranged into bases to escape the fate of freezing or starving to death, like the majority of people in the previous life. Xiaoya was astonished, excited, and terrified. Lin Shi had single-handedly changed the whole world, as expected of him. But she herself was also a reincarnator. She shouldn't be imprisoned in the cage of her past life. It couldn't just be Lin Shi who succeeded and became a hero admired by the whole world. 3 years since returning to the time before the apocalypse, Xiaoya still couldn't forget the moment Lin Shi killed her. As easily as crushing an ant. The person she relied on, the man she wanted to lean on, just stood there, not daring to beg for her life. And the reason Lin Shi killed her was simply because she complained a few times. Those words meant nothing to Lin Shi. In this life, Lin Shi was still just as powerful. But it didn't matter. No matter how strong Lin Shi was, he didn't know that these insignificant nobodies he ignored could also stir up a storm. In this life, Lin Shi wanted to save the world, wanted to make good money, let it rain. In Xiaoya's eyes, dragging those who stood on the pedestal down would bring her immense benefits. Xiaoya's eyes were slightly crazed, while also harboring a deep-seated hatred. Xiaoya originally intended to rope in Xiao Xiao and the others, but considering they all had grudges against Lin Shi, it would inevitably lead to a direct confrontation with him. Therefore, Xiaoya chose a different path. In her previous life, when she was at the base, Xiaoya learned a lot about Lin Shi through Liao Pang and other survivors. She also knew the people who had died at Lin Shi's hands. For example, Lu Pang, Lu Tianran, and Dai Xiaodai. In her previous life, Xiaoya had briefly met Dai Xiaodai once and exchanged a few words. She knew Dai Xiaodai came from the capital and used to work in a factory. Therefore, in this life, the first person Xiaoya wanted to find was Dai Xiaodai. This was the person with the most energy she could access. In her previous life, Xiaoya knew Dai Xiaodai disappeared after being at the base for less than 2 months, and she knew Dai Xiaodai left the base because of a conflict with Lin Shi. Xiaoya had reason to suspect that Lin Shi, that cold-blooded and ruthless bastard, had killed Dai Xiaodai. So, she found Dai Xiaodai, wanting to use her memories of her past life to make Dai Xiaodai trust her, and believe that she would die at the hands of a man named Lin Shi. This took Xiaoya a lot of time and effort. When the authorities brought people into the base, Dai Xiaodai first showed her ability to be friendly with origin beasts. After a period of training, she easily became an origin beast caretaker, a rather lucrative position. After that, Dai Xiaodai joined Xiaoya, using the available resources. After careful screening, Xiaoya used a similar method to approach Lu Pang. Although Xiaoya wasn't the most beautiful, She was full of youthful vitality. She initially approached Lu Tianran the same way she approached Tu Feifei before, gaining Lu Tianran's favor. Then, through Lu Tianran, she got to know Lu Pang, and from there found a way to climb up Lu Pang's network. While approaching Lu Pang, Xiaoa used all sorts of methods to get Lu Tianran close to Sia Chan's guards. Her method was simple. She sparked the young girl's imagination about the handsome guys in the base as ideal future partners and exaggerated Pang Sheng's merits. Then, she used Pang Sheng to pass on suggestive information about Lu Tianran to Sia Chan, doing it discreetly to influence Sia Chan. After all, it was just a few normal, reasonable words that wouldn't arouse suspicion. Xiaoa, this insignificant nobody, had set up a massive chessboard. She gathered those who had grudges against Lin Shi, wanting to push someone to the highest position of power in the base to overturn everything Lin Shi had done. It was just that Xiaoa didn't understand that the things she considered so powerful were nothing in Lin Shi's eyes. She wanted to use her rebirth to influence the base's leadership, completely unaware that even the entire government base posed little threat to Lin Shi. At the same time, Xiaoa didn't expect Sia Chan to be smarter and more careful than she thought. Sia Chan had already suspected Pang Sheng, and Lin Tianrui's people had also reported the conversation between Pang Sheng and Lu Tianran to Lin Tianrui. Next, Lin Tianrui would closely monitor everyone's actions in the base. Half a month passed in a flash. During that time, the base had no news regarding the origin pillar. Today, Xiaoa finally sent news. Patriarch Lin, the investigation into the origin pillar is still ongoing. During the investigation, we discovered some matters related to you. Xiaoa spoke solemnly. The investigation into the origin pillar still had no clues, and Xiaoa didn't know how to report to Lin Shi. What is it? Lin Shi asked. Xiaoa recounted how Xiaoa and the others colluded to plot against Lin Shi. Through the investigation, Xiaoa, Lu Pang, Dai Xiaodai, Pang Sheng, and Lu Tianran were all arrested. That's the gist of it. By the way, you can deal with these people yourself, Xiaoa added. He didn't expect that after such a long investigation, there would be no progress on the origin pillar, but they managed to dig out quite a few rats in the base. Xiaoa and those people were just one group among them. Since it involved Lin Shi, Xiaoa reported it immediately after investigating clearly. Hearing Xiaoa mention these names, Lin Shi was slightly surprised. But that was all. With the methods of Xiaoa and her accomplices, indirectly influencing Lin Shi through the base's higher-ups would take a lot of time. Who knew how long it would take? Even if all the higher-ups in the base were roped in by Xiaoa, the impact on Lin Shi wouldn't be significant. Lin Shi thought he would have to kill fewer people in this life than in his previous one. He didn't expect that those who deserved to die still had to die. As for the origin pillar, even if Lin Shi didn't ask, he knew the investigation was facing difficulties. In fact, even without opening the origin pillar, the people of the Sanyin continent would still find ways to collect materials. Currently, for Lin Shi, whether the origin pillar was opened or not was no longer important. The existence of the origin pillar couldn't determine the fate of humanity. Therefore, the most important thing he needed to do right now was to go back and collect the blue star containers in his hands. Just as Lin Shi was about to refuse and order the base to deal with Dai Xiaodai and the others, the cornucopia interface suddenly displayed a notification. Abnormal container fluctuation detected. The final location of the fluctuation has been determined. The specific coordinates are to the southeast. A container appeared? To the southeast. Wasn't that the exact location of the base? Lin Shi thought to himself. He swallowed the refusal that was on the tip of his tongue and said, "I'll head over right now." After speaking, Lin Shi hurriedly left the room, bumping into Chi-Shuang who was just arriving. After learning that the origin pillar was at risk of detonating, Lin Shi had sent Chi-Shuang and the others, along with the origin beast horde, back to the Lin family, leaving only a few Lin family members and base personnel to stand guard. Seeing Lin Shi in a hurry, Chi-Shuang asked in surprise, "Lin Shi, what's wrong?" "Yeah, something came up," Lin Shi replied perfunctorily. Just as he was about to fly off, he remembered something, looked at Chi-Shuang, and said, "Come with me to the base." After speaking, Lin Shi used his telekinesis to levitate. Chi-Shuang was also carried along by Lin Shi's mental power, and the two quickly flew toward the base. The base's prison. Xiao Ye, Dai Xiaodai, and Lu Tianran were all detained here, but in different cells. Xiao Ye and Dai Xiaodai were locked opposite each other, separated by a narrow aisle. Lu Peng and Peng Sheng were detained on a different floor. Xiao Ye looked at Dai Xiaodai through the iron bars, and both could see the despair in each other's eyes. Besides despair, Xiao Ye's eyes also held an intense unwillingness. She had been so careful, yet her luck was so bad that she ran into Peng Sheng and got caught by the base's inspection. Xiao Ye also saw another terrifying man besides Lin Shi, Sia Chan. Right at that moment, a clinking sound echoed in the narrow aisle. Something fell to the ground. Xiao Ye looked down. It was a tiny ring, completely inconspicuous. In this prison cell, even a snake would be hard to spot. How could this thing be here? Xiao Ye reluctantly looked up. The ring had fallen from the ventilation pipe above. Could there be someone up there? How could a ring fall out of a normal ventilation pipe? The ring hit the ground and rolled toward the door of Dai Xiaodie's cell. It stopped in front of Dai Xiaodie's door, swaying gently. At this moment, a soldier seemed to have heard the noise and was walking this way. Xiao Ye thought to herself, if the soldier sees the ring, he'll definitely take it away. Just as Xiao Ye turned her head, the ring that was right in front of Dai Xiaodie's door, less than a knuckle's length away from the gap, had vanished. The soldier searched around for a while, found nothing, and returned to his post. Dai Xiaodai stared in astonishment at the ring that seemed to have a life of its own, sliding in through the gap in the door. Just imagine, a ring didn't roll in, but slid in slowly, like a person. What kind of sight was that? When Xiao Ye heard the ring fall, Dai Xiaodai heard it too. Dai Xiaodai looked at the ring lying quietly at her feet, feeling afraid, hesitating whether to pick it up. But very quickly, Dai Xiaodai found that the more she looked at this ring, the more she liked it. She looked at her hands bound by shackles, thinking that her situation couldn't get any worse. Dai Xiaodai picked up the ring. A voice in her heart urged her to put the ring on. Dai Xiaodie's eyes glazed over slightly as she slipped the ring onto her finger. The moment the ring fit snugly around her finger, Dai Xiaodai felt as if her head had been struck by a sledgehammer. Everything before her eyes blurred. A second later, Dai Xiaodai collapsed to the ground. Xiao Ye in the adjacent cell saw Dai Xiaodai fall. Not long after, a heavy thud came from the opposite cell. She thought Dai Xiaodai was trying to commit suicide by bashing her head against the wall. Guards! Guards! Xiao Ye called out loudly to the sentries. What are you yelling about? What's going on? Xiao Ye pointed to the opposite cell. She looks like she's trying to kill herself. The guard looked over at Dai Xiaodie's cell. Seeing Dai Xiaodai passed out inside, he immediately knocked on the cell door. Hey, inside. Get up. But no matter how the guard called, Dai Xiaodai remained motionless on the ground. The guard took the keys from his waist, opened the cell door, and walked over to Dai Xiaodai. Just as the guard was about to kick Dai Xiaodai to wake her up and check on her, the unconscious Dai Xiaodai suddenly opened her eyes. Their eyes met. The guard should have been startled, but looking at Dai Xiaodai was like seeing the person he trusted the most. His eyes instantly lost their vigilance and became dazed, while Dai Xiaodie's eyes brimmed with an unconcealable, seductive charm. Dai Xiaodai smiled softly, half sitting up, and whispered to the guard, Big brother, who am I? Why am I locked up here? You are Dai Xiaodai. You're locked up here for colluding with others to destroy the origin pillar. Dai Xiaodai gently bit her finger, her expression innocent yet alluring. Poor me, I finally found a body I like. Why would I want to die? Can you take me out of here? I'll take you out. Xiao Ye's eyes widened in shock as she saw Dai Xiaodai being untied and led out of the cell by a guard. Passing by Xiao Ye, Dai Xiaodai curled her lips into a mischievous smile, then shot Xiao Ye a provocative, meaningful glance. Just a fleeting glance was enough to leave Xiao Ye stunned. She was secretly amazed and full of admiration. Those eyes held an attraction beyond imagination, far surpassing any actress playing a seductress or beauty she had ever seen in movies. That beauty was beyond words, breathtakingly gorgeous. But at that moment, Xiao Ye suddenly snapped out of it. Wait, that beautiful woman just now. Dai Xiaodai. Xiao Ye realized. Finally, she noticed a crucial problem. Why did the guard lead Dai Xiaodai away? But when she looked up to search, Dai Xiaodai and the guard had already disappeared. Almost at the same time, Sia Chan, dressed in a neat suit, having just returned from Xiaoguang's place, walked into his office. He gave a slight nod to the guard at the door and went inside, his expression unchanged. After closing the door, Sia Chan finally revealed a look of exhaustion. For the past half-month, he had been dealing with a mountain of work while personally resolving the suspicions surrounding the Origin Pillar case. Sia Chan sat down in his chair, rubbed his temples, wiped his glasses clean, and put them back on. Just as he finished putting on his glasses, Sia Chan noticed another pair of glasses had appeared on his desk. The glasses on the desk looked a bit old, but Sia Chan had previously spent days searching for a similar pair of handcrafted glasses to no avail. Sia Chan frowned. For this item to appear on his desk, Sia Chan was almost certain it was deliberately placed there by someone close to him. Wang Xueqing, get in here. When he wasn't around, the office was still guarded. No one could enter his office without permission. Other than Wang Xueqing, the guard at the door, no one else could have placed these glasses here. Hearing Sia Chan's call, Wang Xueqing opened the door and came in. Chief. By this time, Sia Chan had already picked up the glasses from the desk. He was about to say something, but his expression suddenly changed. Chief, what's wrong? Seeing Sia Chan's expression change so abruptly, Wang Xueqing felt that something very important must have happened to make this usually smiling and friendly chief show such a terrifying expression. Wang Xueqing anxiously bowed his head, waiting for orders, but he waited, and Sia Chan still didn't say anything. When Wang Xueqing looked up again, Sia Chan was already wearing a new pair of glasses he had never seen before, and his expression had softened again. It's nothing. You may leave. Sia Chan waved Wang Xueqing away, then picked up a stack of documents to read. Wang Xueqing was still as confused as if he were looking for a needle in a haystack, but he obediently closed the door and continued to stand guard outside. A moment later, someone rushed in a panic to reporting to the chief. The prisoner Dai Xiao has escaped with a prison guard. In the office, Sia Chan heard the report, habitually pushed up his glasses, and looked up, his eyes profound. Upon receiving the first notification from the cornucopia, Lin Shi immediately flew toward the government base. 100 kilometers was just a few minutes for Lin Shi. The base was a closed semicircle, so entering and exiting had to be done through the main gate. Lin Shi stopped in front of the base's gate. At this time, the cornucopia interface notified him that his current location was only a few dozen meters away from the last detected fluctuation of the container. You go find Chief Xia. I brought you here to handle the matter with Xiaoa and Dai Xiao. On the way, Lin Shi had summarized everything for Chi-Shuang. Chi-Shuang nodded. Lin Shi quickly moved toward the target. Seeing Lin Shi's face, the gate guards already knew his identity and let him in without checking. Lin Shi quickly arrived at the location pinpointed by the cornucopia, but saw nothing. Where is it? Lin Shi asked the cornucopia. The container can only be detected when it first enters this world. It's not accurate anymore, but it should be nearby. Lin Shi was near the center of the base, not far from Sia Chan's office. Lin Shi swept his mental power across the area and walked toward Sia Chan's office. Seeing Lin Shi, the guards immediately reported to Sia Chan. Chief, Patriarch Lin is here. In the office, an unpredictable glint flashed in Sia Chan's eyes. He said, invite Patriarch Lin in. Lin Shi entered the office, his mental power constantly scanning, but he didn't find any suspicious items. Finally, Lin Shi's gaze landed on Sia Chan's face. When did Chief Xia change his glasses? Sia Chan pushed up his glasses. Someone knew I liked them and gave them to me as a gift. How is it? Do the new glasses look good? Lin Shi swept his mental power over the glasses and nodded. Not bad. Did Patriarch Lin come because of Xiaoa? There's some bad news. Dai Xiao has escaped. I know. Lin Shi didn't care. It was just Dai Xiao. Seeing that he couldn't find anything here, Lin Shi turned around, intending to search elsewhere. Is Patriarch Lin looking for something? Lin Shi turned back to look at Sia Chan, wanting to find a clue from his expression or gestures. Sia Chan was wearing a pair of vintage and simple glasses, a style quite similar to the earrings and bracelet Lin Shi had found earlier. But to Lin Shi's disappointment, these glasses were detected by his mental power. Has Chief Xia seen anything special? Like an antique style. The two previous containers couldn't be sensed by mental power. Lin Shi had asked the consciousness inside the cornucopia and learned that it was due to the special materials used to make the containers. Facing Lin Shi's question, Sia Chan shook his head, his voice firm and sincere as he replied, "If I see a similar item, I will definitely inform Patriarch Lin immediately." Lin Shi looked at Sia Chan's glasses again and said, "Right, Chief Xiao's glasses. Can I take a look?" This request was a bit impolite to a base chief. Sia Chan hesitated slightly, but quickly smiled, took off his glasses, and said, "Patriarch Lin, please go ahead." Lin Shi took the glasses. The cornucopia had no reaction. Sure enough, it wasn't it. Lin Shi was secretly disappointed. He returned the glasses to Sia Chan. After a perfunctory greeting, he left. On the other side, Chi-Shuang went to find Xiaoa. Before she arrived, she saw soldiers hurriedly searching for something. Chi-Shuang didn't care, but just as she reached an intersection, a figure darted out from a dark corner. Chi-Shuang looked at the person, extremely surprised. Why was Xiaoa here? Xiaoming had been wandering around the base for a long time, but still couldn't find the exit. The host body she was currently parasitizing wasn't a high-tier evolver, so she didn't have the ability to scan with mental power, but it wasn't too bad either. She herself had reached the 6th tier of mental power. As long as she upgraded her origin power, breaking through to the 6th tier would be as easy as flipping her hand. Right at this moment, the hiding Xiaoming saw the charm interface pop up with a notification that a tier 6 evolver was approaching. Such a strong person, even if not the leader here, must hold a high position. She could definitely get a lot of information out of them. As long as she controlled that person, getting out of this base would be extremely simple. Perhaps, if it was a beautiful woman, she could even swap for another body. Under the blessing of the charm container, regardless of male or female, anyone would lose their ability to resist her. Xiaoming was extremely excited. Right at that moment, the charm in her hand suddenly emitted a faint light, accompanied by a slight vibration, as if transmitting some important information or warning to Xiaoming. Startled, Xiaoming quickly looked down at the container's interface. After reading the prompt, an uncontrollable surge of excitement welled up in her heart. "It's a symbiotic host again," Xiaoming whispered, a greedy, burning light flashing in her eyes. She took a deep breath, tried to calm herself down, and then quietly stepped out of her hiding spot. She cautiously approached Chi-Shuang. When Chi-Shuang turned her head, Xiaoming was already in front of her. She stared intently, her eyes widening instantly, her face showing a mix of fear and joy. Xiaoming saw that the woman in front of her was almost perfect, completely matching the ideal standard in her mind. Compared to her current body, whether in looks or aura, Xiaoming felt far inferior. Therefore, Xiaoming immediately pretended to be cute and weak, looking at Chi-Shuang with affectionate eyes, and said in a soft voice, "Pretty sister, I've been lost here for a long time and can't find the exit. Could you please show me where the exit is?" While speaking, she secretly used the power of charm to influence Chi-Shuang's mind and judgment. Chi-Shuang had originally come here to discuss with Xiaoa about handling Xiaoya and Xiaoa, but unexpectedly, Xiaoa wasn't imprisoned. No, that couldn't be right. If Xiaoa really hadn't been caught, why would Xiaoa notify Lin Shi to come and deal with these people? Thinking of this, and recalling the hurried, searching looks of the soldiers when she entered the base, Chi-Shuang immediately understood that Xiaoa had escaped here. Chi-Shuang frowned at Xiaoa. In the previous apocalypse, it was Chi-Shuang who had caused Xiaoa's death. Therefore, Chi-Shuang somewhat understood this woman. Yet now, Xiaoa was standing in front of her, her eyes full of seductive charm. This demeanor was completely different from the Xiaoa she knew. Moreover, at this moment, deep down, she actually felt a hint of goodwill toward Xiaoa. Chi-Shuang was a bit confused. She knew very well that she hated Xiaoa, especially when this woman stubbornly tried to contact Lin Shi. Her disgust only grew. Even though Xiaoa hadn't met Lin Shi this time, knowing that she, along with Xiaoya and the others, had opened the origin pillar, Chi-Shuang was still extremely angry. "The exit is that way." Chi-Shuang casually pointed in the direction of the hallway from earlier. Xiaoming took 2 steps closer, pretending to be weak and helpless, and said, "I don't know the way. Pretty sister, can you take me out?" As Xiaoming got closer, Chi-Shuang finally noticed her eyes. Chi-Shuang's gaze met Xiaoming's at close range. There was a moment of daze, and she couldn't help but reply. Chi-Shuang softly agreed, then slowly turned around, intending to lead Xiaoming away. Xiaoming rejoiced inwardly, thinking she had successfully charmed Chi-Shuang, and that as long as she followed Chi-Shuang out of here, she could easily make her move. But just as Xiaoming was calculating her next step, Chi-Shuang suddenly turned back around. Chi-Shuang moved as fast as lightning. One hand grabbed Dai Xiaodai beside her, while the other swung out with terrifying speed, turning into a sharp palm wind that slashed toward Xiaoming. Everything happened so fast that Xiaoming couldn't react. She was shocked to find that her charm spell was completely ineffective against Chi-Shuang. As unconsciousness washed over her, Xiaoming vaguely saw the silhouette of a man in her line of sight. The man stood quietly behind Chi-Shuang, as if he had known this would happen. Chi-Shuang turned to look at the suddenly appearing Lin Shi, then calmly dragged the unconscious Xiaoming to the side. "There's something weird about this woman," Chi-Shuang said. Lin Shi had also used his mental power scan and discovered the new situation here. He crouched down, reached out, and grabbed Dai Xiaodia's soft neck. He applied a little force, and a chilling crack echoed. Dai Xiaodia's neck was snapped by Lin Shi. "Next time you make a move, go for the kill. She's a dead person anyway," Lin Shi reminded Chi-Shuang. They came here to deal with Dai Xiaodai and her accomplices, so naturally, they couldn't let Dai Xiaodai live. Chi-Shuang didn't argue. "Got it. I'll be more careful next time." Lin Shi swept his mental power over Dai Xiaodia's body. Dai Xiaodia's presence here didn't make sense. How could a Tier 2 evolver escape from a prison cell and enter the central area of the base? Chi-Shuang understood what Lin Shi was looking for and said, "Let me check." Chi-Shuang searched Dai Xiaodia's body and found a ring worn on her ring finger. "Is this it?" Right at that moment, the cornucopia in front of Lin Shi signaled, "Mid-tier container detected." Lin Shi's eyes lit up. Chi-Shuang handed the ring to Lin Shi, and Lin Shi casually slipped it into his pocket. "Should I absorb it?" The cornucopia seemed impatient. Lin Shi said to Chi-Shuang, "You continue handling this matter, and leave the corpse to the government people. Leave this small matter to me." Lin Shi nodded at Chi-Shuang, then left the base. Right after Lin Shi left, Sia Chan asked his subordinate, "Is Patriarch Lin still in the base?" The subordinate went to check and came back. "Chief, Patriarch Lin just left, but the person named Chi-Shuang is still here. Should I call her over?" Sia Chan's eyes flickered. He said, "No need. I just wanted to ask Patriarch Lin something. Since he's gone, we'll leave it for next time." "Yes, Chief." Lin Shi brought the container back to the Lin family base. As soon as he set foot at the gate, the guards hurried out to welcome him, bowing respectfully. A guard inside reported, "Patriarch, the Li family patriarch has arrived and is waiting in the guest room." "Got it." Lin Shi quickly headed to the guest room. Xiaoa was making small talk with Li Hongli. This time, Li Hongli brought Li Chun, who looked obedient, and Li Ping, who had previously clashed with the Lin family. Seeing Lin Shi arrive, Li Hongli's eyes lit up. He quickly stood up, cupped his hands, and said, "Patriarch Lin, you're back." Lin Shi nodded and sat in the host's seat. What brings Patriarch Li all the way here? Li Hongli was currently still only at Tier 5. Without an opportunity to break through, it would be hard for this Li family patriarch to level up. Lin Shi glanced at Li Chun, who was standing behind Li Hongli with an obedient expression. "Patriarch Lin, our 4 great families have always worked together like brothers. To be honest, I came here hoping Patriarch Lin could help me unlock the Tier 6 gene." Knowing time was running out, Li Hongli decided to take a gamble. "Oh." Lin Shi tilted his head. So Li Hongli was targeting him. "Why should I help Patriarch Li? Our Lin family is also short on Tier 6 people." The corner of Li Hongli's mouth twitched. The Lin family short on Tier 6? In the whole world, only the Lin family had evolvers at Tier 6 and above. Moreover, the number wasn't just 1 or 2. It was as easy as wholesale. Not to mention you're a Tier 8. Where are you short on Tier 6 people? Of course, Li Hongli only dared to think these words in his heart. He absolutely didn't dare to say them out loud in front of Lin Shi. Patriarch Lin is right. I know Patriarch Lin only trusts his own people. I came here this time to submit the Li family to the Lin family. From now on, the Li family will be a branch of the Lin family, obeying all of Patriarch Lin's commands. What? Li Ping didn't expect Li Hongli to say this, and looked at him in shock. The four great families had always used martial force to determine the winner. Never had one family submitted to another like this. Shut up. It's not your place to interrupt here. Xiao Chun, take Xiao Ping outside. Li Hongli shouted sternly. Yes. Li Chun led Li Ping out of the guest room. After walking a long distance, Li Ping finally kicked a pile of snow. Looking dissatisfied, Li Chun looked at his foolish cousin, secretly cursing him as an idiot in his heart. He had used every means to beg Li Hongli to bring him here, just wanting to take the opportunity to get close to Lin Shi and lay a solid foundation for his future succession as the Li family patriarch. He didn't expect Li Hongli to sell out the entire family, but thinking about it carefully, it didn't matter. Even if he climbed to the position of Li family patriarch himself in the future, it would be hard to avoid relying on the Lin family to survive. When that time came, he would be the one having to act subservient. The gap in strength between the two sides was too vast. If they weren't willing to give up a large portion of their interests, what chance would they have to closely bind themselves to a powerful faction like the Lin family? They chose to join the Lin family, while also clearly showing their stance against the other two great families. That way, when resources were allocated or if there was any discrimination, they would naturally occupy a more advantageous position. Li Hongli definitely calculated it this way too. The condition Li Hongli brought to the negotiation this time was the Li family's complete submission to the Lin family, in exchange for Lin Shi's help to unlock the Tier 6 gene. With the Lin family's strength, unifying the whole world was just a matter of whether Lin Shi wanted to do it or not. The Li family just needed to take the initiative to submit. Patriarch Lin, our Li family submitting to the Lin family, means the entire Middle East will become the Lin family's territory. This will definitely be very helpful for the Lin family's grand goal of unifying the world. Xiaoa was slightly moved. Although the four great families appeared harmonious on the surface, there was no shortage of secret competition. Being able to make one of the four great families submit was a huge temptation for any ambitious family. But Li Hongli's condition made it hard for Xiaoa to decide. He had to wait for Lin Shi to make the call. Xiaoa knew himself. Although he appeared strong on the outside, he actually didn't have much ambition. But precisely because of this, Xiaoa cherished Lin Shi's character even more. Possessing such powerful strength, yet not oppressing the weak, not being controlled by personal desires, and not fostering personal ambitions. Such bearing and character were truly rare. Therefore, even though he really wanted to, Xiaoa didn't intend to persuade Lin Shi to agree. Lin Shi glanced at Xiaoa, his gaze lingering on the face of his savior. Zhang Lu, who was clearly showing joy. He thought for a moment. With Li Hongli's current physical condition, due to his potential being limited, even if he was helped to unlock the Tier 6 gene, his lifelong potential would be almost exhausted. He wouldn't pose any threat to him or the Lin family. The bigger threat to Lin Shi was actually Li Chun. If he could easily subdue the entire Li family without lifting a finger, it would be a certain benefit. More importantly, for the current Lin Shi, catching and killing a Tier 6 origin beast was extremely simple. It was just that Tier 6 origin beasts hadn't appeared this early. He would probably have to wait a few more months. Thinking of this, Lin Shi made his decision. Hearing this, Li Hongli's face lit up with joy. I will help you level up within a year. Your Li family will submit to the Lin family. As for the specific details, you can discuss them with him. Lin Shi turned to Xiaoa. He was in charge of making the decision, and left the rest to Xiaoa. Xiaoa nodded with a joyful expression. He didn't expect Lin Shi to agree. Thinking that the glory of the hidden families would shine in his era, how could Xiaoa not be excited? At this moment, Xiaoa felt extremely fortunate for his previous decision to choose Lin Shi as the patriarch. Patriarch, please rest assured, leave this matter to me. Brotherly, from now on, I won't call you Patriarch Li anymore. You have submitted to the Lin family, so I'll call you Brotherly, alright? Li Hongli smiled bitterly. In the blink of an eye, he had to bow his head to a young man he used to interact with as an equal. Although he wasn't very comfortable in his heart, Li Hongli was still extremely excited that he could advance a tier within a year. Vice Patriarch, please go ahead. The two began to discuss the details. Lin Shi bid them farewell and left the guest room. Lin Shi was now only concerned about the second mid-tier container. He wondered if the cornucopia would bring a new ability after absorbing it. Leaving the reception room, Lin Shi met Li Chun and Li Ping in the courtyard. He gave them a slight nod in greeting. Li Chun was overjoyed and obsequious, respectfully treating Lin Shi like a grandson treating his grandfather. As for Li Ping, seeing Lin Shi come out, he turned his face away. Li Chun secretly cursed while smiling awkwardly at Lin Shi. But Lin Shi didn't care about such trivial matters. He walked leisurely back to his courtyard. Lin Shi took out the ring and looked at its simple design, which carried a hint of antique flavor. He thought that just looking at the ring itself, this simple style wasn't bad. Wait, Lin Shi suddenly realized that ring could actually affect him. It was clearly just an ordinary ring. Lin Shi carefully inspected the ring. There was no consciousness existing inside it. Earlier, when he killed Dai Xiao, it was unclear what container she was carrying, and Lin Shi didn't have time to destroy the consciousness entity on her. Now it seemed that the consciousness entity was no longer in the ring. He didn't know if it had dissipated on its own or returned to the San continent. Are you going to absorb it or not? The cornucopia, after being able to communicate with Lin Shi, didn't stand on ceremony and got straight to the point. Absorb it, Lin Shi said. As soon as he finished speaking, the ring disappeared from Lin Shi's hand, and the cornucopia entered an upgrade state again. Lin Shi knew this process would take a few days, so he wasn't in a hurry. Not long after, Chi-Shuang returned from the base and reported the situation regarding Xiaoa and her accomplices to Lin Shi. Xiaoa and Lu Peng are dead. The remaining ones are Lu Peng's daughter, Lu Tianran, and a chief's guard named Peng Sheng. The two of them were only brainwashed by Xiaoa to spread news and gather intelligence in the base, and didn't directly participate in Xiaoa's actions. I intended to give the base some face and spare Lu Tianran's life, but the chief still ordered both of them to be secretly executed. Yeah, I know. Sia Chan was always careful with everything related to Lin Shi. As long as there was a slight possibility of offending Lin Shi, Sia Chan wouldn't dare to do it. Lin Shi didn't expect Sia Chan to be so decisive in dealing with even his own guard. This person truly couldn't be underestimated. He wondered if the official base under Sia Chan's control would develop better than it did under Lin Tianrui. These thoughts flashed through Lin Shi's mind, and then he brushed them aside. A few days later, both bases were very quiet. The cornucopia finally finished upgrading and acquired a new ability, Charm. Charm caused anyone facing the owner to be actively or passively affected mentally. Active use could influence or even control other conscious creatures. The higher the owner's mental power tier, the better the charm effect. Passive use could make people of the same sex, opposite sex, or even other creatures find you very pleasant. The cornucopia transmitted this information to Lin Shi right after upgrading. Lin Shi looked at the charm ability, frowned, and suddenly asked a question he had wanted to ask for a long time. To be honest, I've always wondered why your interface looks exactly like a game I used to play. The cornucopia's interface is created based on the format the owner can most easily accept in their subconscious. Different users will see different interfaces. Lin Shi understood. Does this ring have any other abilities? Why didn't you let me choose this time? This ring is called Charm. Charm is its strongest and most important ability. It also has the ability to absorb raw materials and expand a small space. The other two abilities are useless to both you and me, so I didn't let you choose this time. You should still let me choose next time, Lin Shi said. Although the cornucopia's choice wasn't wrong, this kind of behavior, like a guest usurping the host, felt very uncomfortable. This made Lin Shi feel like he was gradually losing control of the cornucopia. A conscious entity controlling the cornucopia was existing inside his body, and even Lin Shi himself couldn't fully control it. So who was the real master of the cornucopia? Don't worry, we are one entity. I won't do anything detrimental to you. All my choices are beneficial to you. Lin Shi's eyes narrowed slightly. I know. Lin Shi went to the courtyard and used Charm on the Snowball Demon King, who was playing there. He wanted to test this new ability. Hearing the call, the Demon King turned its head to look at Lin Shi. Its already bright eyes grew even brighter. It dashed toward Lin Shi, its posture looking like it was about to attack. Lin Shi hurriedly canceled the charm. The Demon King stopped, tilted its head, and looked at Lin Shi with a puzzled expression. Lin Shi asked, "How did you feel just now?" The Demon King tilted its head in thought, then used its claws to write on the snow. Just now, Master looked very pleasing to the eye. I really wanted to jump into Master's arms and play like when I was little. But since the Demon King had leveled up, Linshi rarely played with it like that anymore. Linshi asked, "What about now?" "Now, you seem a little more handsome than usual," the Demon King wrote. Linshi rubbed his chin, deciding to find someone else to test it on. Right at that moment, a young clansman walked by, sweeping snow. Linshi stepped outside. Seeing Linshi, the young clansman hurriedly and respectfully said, "Patriarch." Linshi said, "Look up at me." The young clansman was a bit excited. He looked up, staring straight into Linshi's clear eyes. Linshi didn't hesitate to use charm, observing the reaction of the person in front of him. The clansman's eyes shifted from curiosity to admiration, and then to fanaticism. "Patriarch, I am willing to go through fire and water for you. I would gladly die. As long as you need me, I will follow you to the ends of the earth." "Very good." Linshi nodded, giving a perfunctory compliment. He didn't expect the young clansman to become extremely agitated, tears welling up in his eyes. "Thank you for the compliment, Patriarch. I haven't done anything to deserve your praise. What virtue or ability do I have? I'm so ashamed. I want to sacrifice my life for the Patriarch. Patriarch, please command me." Seeing the fanatical clansman, Linshi withdrew the charm and took a step back. He felt this ability was different from what he imagined, but he didn't know if it was an illusion. He felt his mental power increase a little. Could using charm enhance mental power? "Go on. Just do your work." Linshi signaled for the clansman to leave. "Yes, Patriarch. If the Patriarch doesn't need me, I will use this broom to sweep away all the snow in the entire base." Saying that, the clansman acted like a madman, sweeping snow as he walked far away. Linshi turned around and saw the Demon King standing behind him, its eyes wide open in a daze.